Chapter 134. Looking at Nian Bing's pure blue eyes, Long Ji felt weak in his heart. Indeed, in his heart, although Nian Bing was important, how could she compare to the powerful fifth prince? Today, when the fifth prince came to propose marriage, he was overjoyed. However, he never thought that Nian Bing would actually rush back when she was in danger. Furthermore, she almost killed the fifth prince with a strength that was far beyond his expectations. Sergio didn't know what Nian Bing used. Perhaps the fifth prince and that blue-clothed elder didn't know. But as an archmage, how could he not recognize it? That was clearly the innate domain of a super magician. Moreover, it was an innate domain that possessed 7 different magical auras. Nian Bing's strength and unrestrained actions had already caused him to lose his mind. Offending the fifth prince was definitely a disaster for the Ice Moon Empire's Magician Guild. However, could he deal with this Nian Bing who brought him great honor? Nian Bing smiled indifferently and continued. Have you thought about something? You only have one daughter, Linger. Could it be that you don't think about her happiness? A cold light flashed in Long Ji's eyes as he said, Nonsense. Being able to marry into the imperial family is the dream of many people. The fifth prince was born wise and talented. Ling will definitely be happy to be with him. Nian Bing, you have never expressed your feelings for Ling or to me. What do you mean by doing this today? Nian Bing sighed. Yes, I'm sorry for Ling I once let her down. However, the same thing will never happen again. Ling, it can only be mine. There is no doubt about this. Teacher, do you know why Miss Luo Ro left the Ice Moon Empire? You don't know. However, I know. Because she sees the future. Marrying into the imperial family is a good thing for power. However, for a girl, it is the beginning of a painful life. With Yin Yun's status, who knows how many wives and concubines he will have in the future? Even if Ling was favored for a while, would she be able to receive Yin Yun's love forever? The answer is no. Once you enter the palace, you are as deep as the ocean. You should know this. However, you deliberately ignored this question because of the power that the fifth prince could bring you. You are Ling Er's father, and she is your only daughter. Yes, master, what Nian Bing said makes sense. You should consider it carefully, Sergio said from the side. Long Ji glanced at Sergio. You can leave first. There's no need for you to say anything here. Sergio still wanted to say something, but in the end, he held back. He turned and walked downstairs. Before he left, he gave Nian Bing an encouraging look. After Sergio left, Long Ji's voice became gentler. Nian Bing, do you really like Linga? Nian Bing nodded firmly and said, Yes. One of the most important reasons I came back this time is to establish a relationship with Linger. I am sincere, and so is Linger. I hope you can entrust her to me. Long Ji said indifferently. However, if I remember correctly, you still have a grudge that you have yet to take revenge. The hatred of your parents is irreconcilable. Even if your strength has increased, can you be a match for the Ice Goddess? If I agree to let Ling follow you, and you die in the process of revenge, then how can my daughter be happy? Yes, you are right. In order to strengthen the union, I am willing to do anything. The 2 greatest wishes in my life are to become a god-descending master, and the other is to make the union the #1 union in the continent of magic. Linger is my daughter. Since young, she has always supported me. I think that I will not be an exception this time. Moreover, although what you said is possible, I believe that with Ling Er's character, it is not impossible to tie down the fifth prince's heart. Nian Bing, don't forget that you are a member of the Magician Union. For the Union, I hope you can make some sacrifices. I have promised you before that in the near future, my position will be taken by you. This promise exists. This time, you have made such a great contribution to the Union, and you have such a strong backing. I am preparing to make you the vice president of the Union. Nian Bing became agitated and said loudly, Teacher, do you think I'm a person who only cares about profits? I can solemnly tell you that I have never had any thoughts about power. The Union president is not important to me, but Ling is one of the most important people in my heart. You don't need to say any more. No matter what, I will not give up on Ling These days I have thought it through. I am willing to give Ling a warm home. I cannot guarantee that I will be a good husband, but I can guarantee that I will love Ling wholeheartedly. I will never give up on such a good girl like Ling. He said these words resolutely, not leaving any leeway for his relationship with Long Ji. His meaning was very clear. He wanted to tell Long Ji that no matter what methods he used, he would never give up on Ling. Long Ji's gaze turned cold. So you're saying that you're determined to mess up this matter? Nian Bing. Nian Bing, don't forget that I am the president of the Ice Moon Empire's Magician Union. And Ling is my daughter. The corner of Nian Bing's mouth rose, and a trace of disdain appeared in her eyes. Yes, you are Ling father, but you are also a father who does not care about his daughter's happiness. I love Ling and I will not allow anyone to hurt her. I don't want to see her cry anymore. I want to smile on Dao Zi's face every day. Teacher, this might be the last time I call you that. Back then, when I first entered the mainland, you gave me a lot of help. However, I also helped the Workers' Association earn some fame. It can be said that we don't owe each other anything. I don't want to continue being an elder of the Workers' Association. If you want to deal with me, then use whatever methods you have. As he spoke, he took out the elder's token from the ring of the end and threw it on the ground. His gaze met Long Ji's without any hesitation. Your wings have hardened, and you don't even want to acknowledge your teacher. Good. Then I want to see your ability. Since you can defeat a swordsman, let's see if you can defeat an archmage. As long as you kill me, there will naturally be no one to stop you. A green stream of air revolved around Long Ji's body, and the wind of freedom turned into a berserk wind that constantly wreaked havoc. Long Ji had immersed himself in wind magic for dozens of years, and his magic cultivation was so high that even the ice goddess priests were somewhat afraid of him. His strength was unquestionable. At this moment, a sobbing voice sounded. No, father, don't fight with Nian Bing. A blue figure quickly ran up the stairs. It was the same blue magic robe, the same purple hair, a pair of big helpless eyes filled with panic, and her charming face was somewhat pale. Her body seemed to be thinner than before. It was Ro the Maiden, Long Ling. Nian Bing opened her mouth almost at the same time as Long Ji. Nian Bing took large strides forward, and without caring that Long Ji was beside him, he pulled Long Ling's delicate body into his embrace. Feeling that thin and weak, delicate body, feeling Long Ling's rapid heartbeat, Nian Bing's eyes became somewhat blurry. This girl who had always silently loved him, who had always bitterly missed him, was now so moving in his eyes. Nian Bing knew that he would never, ever let Long Ling down again, never ever. Suddenly being hugged by Nian Bing, Long Ling couldn't help but be startled. But very quickly, that familiar and warm chest infected her heart. This sudden hug already proved everything to her. Finally, the longing in her heart returned. Tears of excitement flowed out of her eyes. She tightly hugged Nian Bing's waist. She was very afraid that all of this was just a dream. Nian Bing hugged Long Ling, letting her cry in his arms. He knew that at this time, letting Long Ling cry out all the grievances in her heart would be better for her body. His gaze fell on Long Ji, whose expression was uncertain, and he calmly looked at him. Long Ji secretly said in his heart, "Sure, Jiao, this brat is really meddlesome. Why'd he call Ling over?" After a while, Long Ling finally remembered what she came here for. She hurriedly struggled out of Nian Bing's arms and used her sleeves to wipe the tears on her face. "Father, you really wanted to marry that fifth prince?" Long Ji looked at his tearful daughter, and his heart immediately softened. "Ling you also know that this is the best opportunity for our guild. Moreover, the fifth prince is a person with great foresight, good character, and looks that match you. What's wrong with that?" Long Ling looked at her father. Ever since she was young, she always knew how much her father had sacrificed for the Ice Moon Empire's Magic Guild. When she was young, she secretly swore that when she grew up, she would work hard to cultivate magic and strive to help her father. But now on one side was her father, and on the other side was the man she loved deeply. They were both flesh and blood, so how could she choose? Nian Bing hugged Long Ling's waist from behind and said in a distressed voice, "Ling, why did you lose weight again? Do you often not eat well?" He seemed to have forgotten the awkwardness in front of him and looked at Long Ling with a face full of concern. Feeling the warmth of Nian Bing's large hand, Long Ling's heart calmed down a little. She looked back at him, and the worry in her eyes deepened. If it wasn't for Nian Bing, she would have meekly agreed to her father's request. After all, this was her father's only hope. But after so many years of yearning for Nian Bing, she finally had hope. Her conflicted heart couldn't help but shed tears again. Looking at Long Ling's appearance, Nian Bing knew that he had no other choice. For Ling, he couldn't fall out with Long Ji. Long Ji was too important in Long Ling's heart. He couldn't just take Ling, and leave. That way, she would never be able to truly be happy. Thinking up to this point, Nian Bing made a decision. He looked at Long Ji and said, "I already understand your wish. If it was just for myself, I might do something extreme. But for Ling, you are still my teacher. Your wish is to make the Ice Moon Empire's Magicians Guild strong. Let's end it. All right, I'll help you. I think what you want is not the support of the Fifth Prince, but the support of the future Emperor of the Ice Moon Empire. If I can make the future Emperor support you in developing the guild, I think you won't have to marry Ling to that Fifth Prince." Longji looked doubtfully at Nian Bing's wise and far-sighted eyes. His mind whirled. Suddenly, his eyes flashed, and he said somewhat anxiously, You want to support the first prince or the second prince?" Nian Bing smiled indifferently and said, "No, I'm not interested in those people I'm not familiar with. Teacher, let's make a bet. Let's bet that I'm the future emperor of the Ice Moon Empire. You can agree to the relationship between the fifth prince and Ling, but you have to put forward a condition. Only when he becomes the emperor can he marry Ling. It's said that the Ice Moon Empire's emperor doesn't have many days left to live. I think the next emperor should be decided soon." Long Ji's breathing became a little hurried. "Nian Bing, can you influence the political changes of the Ice Moon Empire by yourself? You have to understand that I won't give you any support in this matter. Although our union's position is a little stronger than before, it's only just started. Compared to the priests of the Ice Goddess, who can influence the entire political situation, we're still far too lacking. You're just a magic shooter who won a competition. You don't have any influence to speak of. Just based on your words, you want me to reject the fifth prince?" Nian Bing said indifferently, "Of course, for the sake of Ling, you can't stand on the wrong side. But similarly, for the sake of Ling, why don't you give me a chance? I've said it before. You can first agree to the marriage between the fifth prince and Ling, and promise to fully support his ascension to the throne. But only when he truly ascends to the throne can you let Ling marry him. Perhaps doing this will cause the fifth prince to have some ill feelings towards you. But at the same time, if you succeed in fulfilling your promise, won't you be able to obtain even greater benefits? Teacher, this bet isn't a loss for you." Long Ji frowned slightly, his eyes flashing. He was hesitating. Long Ling looked at her father, then looked at her beloved man. Her current emotions were extremely complicated. She subconsciously held Nian Bing's hand tightly. Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, "Teacher, let's go to the testing area. I want to spar with you again." Long Ji was stunned. "You want to compete with me in magic?" Nian Bing nodded. "That's right. I want to prove to you that I already have enough ability to protect Ling. In fact, if it wasn't for Ling feelings, I would have taken her away from here and never come back. In that case, you won't be able to answer to the fifth prince. I think as long as I insist on taking Ling away, no one can stop me." Long Ji narrowed his eyes, a glint flashing through them. "I haven't seen you in a year, Nian Bing. You've changed." Nian Bing said, "Strength gives people confidence. Just based on your innate domain?" Long Ji was somewhat disdainful. Although he was also shocked by Nian Bing's innate domain, it didn't represent everything. After all, a real battle was different from a competition. There were magic scrolls that could instantly cast magic. Moreover, Long Ji himself had been an archmage for many years. He couldn't believe that Nian Bing could defeat him with just the strength of an archmage. "How do you know if you don't try?" Nian Bing calmly looked at Long Ji. All right, as long as you can defeat me, I will agree to your conditions. Although our union is weak, it won't be difficult to protect Ling, until the fifth prince ascends the throne. Finished speaking, he took the lead and walked out. Seeing her father go downstairs, Long Ling looked gratefully at Nian Bing. It's all because of me, Nian Bing. Nian Bing took Long Ling's hand and kissed it. Linger, don't think about anything, okay? Just leave everything to me. Since I want to be your man, the Lord must remove all your troubles. Unless I die, I won't let you marry anyone else. All right, let's go. There was a strong restriction in the magic testing hall. Previously, Nian Bing's magic power was tested here. Nian Bing let Long Ling wait outside while she followed Long Ji into the hall. The familiar magic seal around him and the active magic elements made him enter a state of tranquility. He didn't like trouble, but for his beloved Long Ling, even if it was troublesome, he had to do it. He swore that abandoned wisdom would make Long Ling cry because of him again. Long Ji stood in the middle of the tree, waiting for Nian Bing's arrival. A faint green light constantly surrounded his body and flickered. In his hand, there were already 3 magic scrolls. Although he knew that Nian Bing's magic power was not as good as his, he didn't dare to be careless with the advantage of an innate domain. After all, it was rare to see a magician with an innate domain. Even he had only heard of it. Before he figured out the ability of Nian Bing's innate domain, he had to be careful. Nian Bing walked until she was 10 feet away from Long Ji and stopped. The space ring on her left hand that Long Ji gave her flashed, and the bamboo hat on her head was taken back. Her long white hair floated down and draped over her shoulders. Seeing Nian Bing's white hair, Long Ji couldn't help but be stunned. Suddenly, he seemed to understand something and said in shock, "Nian Bing, you actually used the magic I taught you?" Nian Bing nodded and said, "That's right, I've used it. I had no choice but to curse my own life in exchange for greater strength for my friends. You don't have to be surprised. My life force has completely returned to normal. It's just that this hair will never return to its original state. Since leaving Ice Snow City, I have experienced many things. Some things, even I still can't figure out." He was naturally referring to his fusion with the little dragon king, Oscar. Oscar was still sleeping in his heart. A strange energy protected all his internal organs, including his heart. His dragon body was already very strong, and with the addition of Oscar's energy, his body's defense was not inferior to that of a swordsman. Long Ji smiled indifferently and said, "Good, I want to see what you have learned these days. You actually dare to challenge your own teacher." The green radiance instantly became even more powerful, and the overly condensed wind element let out a humming sound. Nian Bing didn't move and only looked at Long Ji calmly. She knew that, as her teacher, Long Ji would definitely not make the first move. With a twist of her finger, an icicle floated out. Immediately after, in a weak silver light, the icicle disappeared. When Long Ji was stunned, the icicle suddenly appeared in front of him. The green light flashed and instantly accelerated, and in the blink of an eye, it was in front of his chest. Long Ji was shocked. The green light stirred in front of his chest, shattering the icicle. However, he found that his body was already covered in cold sweat. Although he knew that Nian Bing was very strong in magic control, he didn't expect that he was strong to this extent. A simple icicle from his hand could produce such a strange attack. The previous silver and green light clearly had the aura of space magic and wind magic. Before leaving the cold ridge, Nian Bing had deliberately and seriously exchanged pointers with several Dragon King. With the battle with the Lich Evil Moon, his understanding of magic had deepened, especially after he could activate the camouflage magic without using the 7 magic knives. He had reached a new height in the control of the 7 elements magic. More importantly, after his rebirth, when all his energy was stable, he was no longer a sorcerer, but the first all-elements sorcerer in the history of Yangon. Perhaps, in terms of magic power of a single element, he was not as good as Long Ji, who had been immersed in magic for many years. However, he had the 7 elements magic based on the same origin of ice and fire. Nian Bing acted as if she had done nothing. She looked calmly at Long Ji and said, "Teacher, we can officially begin." Long Ji's heart twitched. He muttered a few spells, and a wind wall with strong wind suddenly appeared in front of him. Nian Bing's sneak attack with teleportation and wind acceleration had raised his vigilance. Nian Bing understood that if she wanted Long Ji to have confidence in her, then she must first let him have confidence in her own strength. With a seven-colored light, the sky eye field floated out and surrounded Nian Bing's body. 7 phantoms appeared in front of him. These 7 shadow puppet were not instantly summoned by Nian Bing, but by Nian Bing. Since she had a basic understanding of the abilities of the 7 magic knives, Nian Bing had used her understanding of the magic array to attach the 7 shadow puppets to the 7 magic knives. Among the 7 shadow puppets, the most powerful ones were the 2 with the strongest magic foundation, ice and fire. However, the most mysterious one was the black shadow puppet that had absorbed part of the vampire queen's dark magic power. Now, even Nian Bing was a little unclear about the extent of the ability of her black puppet. "Teacher, use your strongest magic. You only have one chance." Although Nian Bing's tone was calm, it gave Long Ji a strange feeling. It was as if he was the teacher now. Anger surged in his heart, and Long Ji sneered. "Nian Bing, although your wings have hardened, your vision is also short-sighted. Very well, I will let you see the true strength of your teacher." The whole room suddenly distorted, and in the midst of the distortion, the hall suddenly lit up and was completely dyed in green light. A magic staff appeared in Long Ji's hand. The tip of the staff was in the shape of ribbons and was inlaid with 3 green gems. Nian Bing naturally recognized the gems because they were the same wind chant stones that were on her proud heaven blade. She was shocked and immediately opened her Tian Yin acupoint. All the changes of energy in her Tian Yin acupoint became very clear. Nian Bing discovered through observation. Although the gems on a magic staff were also wind chant stones, the quality was slightly worse than the one on her proud heaven blade. But even so, the wind elemental aura emitted from the magic staff became denser than in the grass hall. Long Ji's chanting voice became very low, but it was very rhythmic. It faintly matched the whistling of the wind in the hall. Of course, he didn't know that this was the special chanting method that Long Ji relied on to become famous, the wind chant language. Relying on the effects of the wind chant language, when he used magic, the chanting time of the incantation would be reduced by 1/3. For a powerful magus, reducing the chanting time of the incantation was definitely a sign of increasing strength. Countless twisting wind blades danced in the air under the effect of the green light. Nian Bing could no longer see Long Ji's figure. However, she could clearly feel Long Ji's position. However, that place had already become the center of the storm. What strong magic power! Nian Bing couldn't help but be shocked. Although she had also entered the realm of magus, her magic power was still much weaker than Long Ji's. They were both magus. There was also a difference in strength. Nian Bing didn't make any movements. He was waiting for Long Ji to raise his aura to the limit. The 7 shadow puppets that he had prepared beforehand were his greatest advantage. With these 7 shadow puppets, no matter if it was attack or defense, he would have the advantage. Countless green wind blades gathered to form a long river of wind blades. Following a direction, they formed a beautiful arc and slashed towards Nian Bing. Nian Bing didn't move. Of course, he knew that this was only Long Ji's first attack. He wanted to test how strong the defense of his innate domain was. The reason why he only released 1 foot of innate domain at the beginning wasn't because Nian Bing looked down on Long Ji. Instead, it was because he valued Long Ji. The power of an innate domain was greatly related to its density. The smaller the area released, the greater the density and power under control. The lack of attack was the biggest flaw of the Sky's Eye domain. Although it was similar, this was also its biggest advantage. Without attack, under the effect of defense and amplification, the Sky's Eye domain far surpassed other innate domains. At least 10 green wind blades rushed into the 1 foot radius of the domain. With Archmage Long Ji's strength, The wind blades he released were naturally not as simple as ordinary wind blades. Each wind blade had the attack power of a spell of the third step or above. In an instant, dozens of spells of the third step attacked. Especially when it was a single target attack, it definitely had the power of a spell of the sixth step or above. However, when these spells of the third step entered the sky's eye domain, they melted like snow. The seven-colored halo constantly fluctuated. Within it, the green light flickered. Every wind blade's attack that entered the domain was immediately converted into wind energy. Not only did it not cause any damage, it was instead used by Nianbing. Nianbing's sky's eye domain naturally couldn't absorb too much wind energy, but the wind puppet could. Its original light didn't stand out, but after using its innate aura to absorb the several hundred wind blades' energy from Nianbing, the green energy body became a lot more substantial. Without the absolute energy that surpassed the sky's eye domain, the attack would only be converted by the sky's eye domain. This was the advantage of the sky's eye domain. To weaken and amplify at the same time, there must be no deviation in the control of the energy. Under the effect of the sky's eye point, Nianbing did it. The wind blades didn't continue to attack. A huge green figure loomed between Nianbing and Long Ji. Nianbing's heart skipped a beat. She immediately recognized that this was the summoning of Aeolus. This was the magician's union after all. Long Ji didn't dare to use all his strength to cast an 11th step forbidden spell. Otherwise, when the energy reached a point where even he couldn't control it, it would inevitably cause great damage to the magician's union. Thus, he had to be careful. A dot of golden light appeared on the forehead of the huge green figure. As the light flickered, streaks of green lightning flashed, and the huge figure gradually became clearer. Although the face was blurry, Aeolus's aura brought about great pressure. Nianbing had no choice but to take a few steps back and release her sky's eye domain to resist this great pressure. He couldn't help but admire Long Ji. He knew that, with his own ability, it was impossible for him to cast a 10th step spell so quickly. Long Ji lived up to his reputation as an archmage for many years. His application of wind magic had already reached a critical point. He only needed to make one final breakthrough to enter the realm of a God's Descent Master. Unfortunately, he wasn't a God's Descent Master yet. Facing the completion of the 10th step spell, Nianbing didn't dare to wait any longer. Her sky's eye domain continued to expand, enveloping the 7 shadow puppets in an instant. The amplification effect was pushed to the limit. She raised her hands in front of her and completely opened her eye acupoint. The light between her eyebrows instantly bloomed. 7 blades in one, sky's eye slash. The 7 shadow puppets instantly lined up in a row and raised their 7 magic blades. The one at the front was the God of Flame's Cry Righteous Yang Saber, followed by the Morning Dew Saber, Proud Heaven Saber, Longevity Saber, 4-Star Saber, Holy Radiant Saber, and Demon Devouring Saber. 7 different lights condensed at one point, and the 7 shadow puppets made the same movement. The sky's eye slash didn't release a single blade of light, but condensed into a 7-colored ball of light. The ball of light was extremely strange. It wasn't made up of 7 different colors, but constantly flashed. Every time it flashed, it would change into a different kind of light. The ball of light was only the size of a fist, and under the identification of the sky's eye acupoint, it accurately locked onto the forehead of Aeolus that Long Ji had summoned. He knew that that was the strongest point of Aeolus, and, at the same time, the most important point of Aeolus. With the sky's eye acupoint fully opened, Nianbing's spiritual power reached an unprecedented level. Ice and fire were her strong points, and with the amplification of the shadow puppets and wind element shadow puppets, her power had already far surpassed the level when she faced the Earth Dragon King, Fatso. The ball of light released by the sky's eye slash was much smaller than last time, but the speed of the 7-colored light was more than twice as fast. Chapter 135. This time, they didn't disappear after releasing the Heaven's Eye Slash. This was Nianbing's improvement. After the 7 shadow puppets released their attacks, he immediately replenished them with 7 strands of Xiantian Qi and controlled them to absorb the surrounding Xiantian qi with their own Xiantian qi. The speed of one person absorbing Xiantian qi could never be compared to 8 people. Ever since he obtained the Xiantian domain, not only did he not slack off because of the increase in strength, he worked even harder every day. He even put aside his favorite cooking skills and devoted himself to magic cultivation. Every day, other than the things that were necessary, he would spend 70% of his remaining time on magic cultivation. Every day, other than the things that were necessary, he would spend 70% of his remaining time on magic cultivation. Every day, other than the things that were necessary, he would spend 70% of his remaining time on magic cultivation. Every day, other than the things that were necessary, he would spend 70% of his remaining time on magic cultivation. Every day, other than the things that were necessary, he would spend 70% of his remaining time on magic cultivation. Every day, other than the things that were necessary, he would spend 70% of his remaining time on magic cultivation. Every day, other than the things that were necessary, he would spend 70% of his remaining time on magic cultivation. The closer his strength was to the target of the snow goddess priestess, the more diligent he became. Qianhuan Bingyun said that her parents were not dead. If she wanted to save them, she could only rely on herself. Everyone could only completely trust themselves. The 7 magical elements quickly formed a delicate balance under the control of the mental force emitted from the celestial eye acupoint. In this balance, the 7 magical elements existed in a mutually reinforcing manner. Under the effect of complementing each other, the magical power was instantly released to the maximum. In the blink of an eye, it had already arrived in front of Aeolus that Long Zhi had summoned. Wind magic was released to the strongest level in an instant. That huge figure shot out a bolt of cyan lightning, which suddenly struck Nianbing's Heaven's Eye Slash. However, the strength of the Heaven's Eye Slash lay in the fact that it was a small Heaven's Eye domain. Although it wasn't large in size, the concentrated energy within it was exceptionally terrifying. The speed of the lightning was even faster than Nianbing's thoughts. He didn't have time to control the Heaven's Eye Slash to dodge, but the Heaven's Eye Slash's tyrannical nature wasn't something that the green lightning could destroy. Long Ling was anxiously waiting outside. Although this hall was specially used to test the level of a magician, she could still clearly feel the surging magic elements inside. Just as she was at a loss, a familiar call suddenly sounded from the bottom of her heart. "Linger, back off." The voice belonged to Nianbing's. Long Ling didn't know why Nianbing's voice would appear in her mind, but with her trust in Nianbing, she didn't hesitate and immediately ran away. Just as Long Ling ran a few dozen meters, the magic seal covering the entire testing hall collapsed. Boom! An intense 7-colored brilliance surrounded a cyan light and soared into the sky. The most peculiar thing was that the clouds above the Magician Union were disappearing in large patches, causing the somewhat dark sky to turn azure blue. Sunlight shone on the earth, enveloping the entire Magician Union. In the violent explosion, the entire magic hall disappeared in an instant, and the 2 buildings connected to the hall collapsed. When the turbulent dust came into contact with the 7-colored light beam, it also disappeared. Long Ling subconsciously released a 6th-tier magic scroll that Nianbing had given her. She didn't want to face the huge shockwave head-on, and used the momentum to float away. Even so, the huge pressure almost made her suffocate. The sudden energy was really too huge. Fortunately, this energy was completely upward, otherwise it wouldn't be impossible to destroy the entire Magician Union. The sudden appearance of the strange phenomenon immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the Ice Eye City. Everyone's eyes turned to the magic guild of the Ice Eye Empire. It was not until the next day that they heard an explanation from the magic guild that the explosion was caused by a magic experiment. Of course, this explanation was very far-fetched, but although the explanation was far-fetched, the huge amount of energy was indeed there. Some people immediately reevaluated the strength of the Magician Union. That kind of energy fluctuation was definitely at the level of a forbidden spell. When the energy exploded, it produced 7 types of magic elements, and it didn't destroy the Magician Union. This was definitely not an effect that 7 sorcerers could produce. Everyone knew that the Ice Moon Empire's Magician Union only had 1 sorcerer. However, this sudden explosion that could cause a change in the weather made the Magician Union even more mysterious in people's hearts. Especially with the recent performance of the representative of the Ice Moon Empire's Magician Union in the 5 Nations Emerging Magician Competition, it naturally made some people think of it. Everything returned to silence. Dozens of mages ran out of the surrounding buildings. The 2 buildings on either side of the testing hall were originally magic laboratories. Recently, due to the funding from the Ice Moon Empire, they were preparing to renovate them. The things inside had been moved out, so although the explosion was intense, it didn't cause any casualties. Only these 3 buildings were damaged. Nian Bing still looked the same as before. His long white hair draped over his shoulders and swayed gently. The 7 shadow puppets each held a magic blade in their hands as they circled around him. Under the coverage of the Heaven's Eye domain, these shadow puppets that were constantly moving around could only be seen as blurry illusions. Longji also didn't suffer any injuries. He stood there and looked at Nian Bing, who was not far in front of him from time to time. Everything around them disappeared. Even the ground under their feet turned into fine powder. The huge amount of magic energy raged and scattered in all directions. The explosion of the 2 forces of energy was more powerful than a forbidden spell. Longji was very clear that at the last moment, Nian Bing used an unbelievably huge amount of mental strength to change the direction of the explosion. This was why the Magician Union didn't suffer irreparable damage. Nian Bing, you're back? As a senior elder of the Union, Ritu was pleasantly surprised when he saw Nian Bing. Nian Bing looked at Ritu, who walked to her side, and smiled. Hello, Teacher Ritu. I just came back not long ago. Teacher wants to test the level of my magic recently. Teacher also said that due to the expansion of our union, this testing hall should be rebuilt. To avoid the trouble of dismantling it, we might as well use magic to tear it down. Teacher, I'm right? Longji coughed, resisting the constant feeling of weakness. He walked to Nian Bing's side and nodded. Indeed, Elder Ritu. From now on, I appoint Nian Bing as the vice president of the union. His strength has already reached the level of an archmage. I think the position of vice president is very suitable for him. Please prepare a new magic robe for him and prepare a corresponding badge. I'm a bit tired, so I'll go rest for a while. After saying that, he passed between Nian Bing and Ritu, heading towards his own resting place. He didn't look at Nian Bing and didn't even say a word to her. But Nian Bing knew that Longji had already fulfilled his bet with her. Longji was still unable to calm down from the shock in his heart. He only had one word to describe Nian Bing's strength: unfathomable. Previously, when he had used his fastest speed to summon Aeolus, it had collided with that unremarkable ball of light that Nian Bing had sent out. He immediately discovered that the explosive force of the collision was beyond his control. At the critical moment, he didn't even hesitate to tear open a defensive magic scroll of the 9th step to protect his body. It must be known that magic scrolls of the 9th step were already a special kind of magic scroll that could be seen on the market. Although magic scrolls were made from magic crystal powder, there was a limit to the amount of magic it could withstand. Even if one had the strength to make magic scrolls of the 9th step and above, they would require special materials. It also required extremely special materials to make the white scroll. Only a few people in the entire continent knew how to make this kind of white scroll. The value of a magic scroll of the 9th step was already equivalent to 100 gold coins. However, when Longji tore open the scroll to protect himself, he was shocked to discover that Nian Bing's body was emitting a layer of strange light. It was a layer of white radiance. But within the white radiance, there were some gray streams of air. The radiance was instantly injected into the center of the explosion, and a strange pattern appeared on his forehead. Immediately after, the pattern became as bright as the sun. The huge explosive force that was supposed to spread out unexpectedly changed from spreading to rushing upwards after he injected this energy, and the energy rose in an instant. This saved the Magician's Guild. However, when a huge explosive force rose, Long Ji was shocked to discover that the huge explosive force had sucked away most of his magic. At this time, his strength was already less than 30% of his peak state. On the other hand, Nian Bing looked as if nothing had happened. The magic that Nian Bing used was something that he had never seen before, but he was very clear that Nian Bing's unfathomable strength was definitely above that of an archmage. In fact, Nian Bing was not feeling well at the moment. His sense of weakness was even stronger than Long Ji's. When the explosion was about to happen, he immediately felt that the surrounding seal could not contain the explosive force, and hurriedly reacted as quickly as possible. Through a full understanding of spiritual force and the soul, he called out to Long Ling, who was outside. At the same time, he used his celestial eye acupoint to maximize his spiritual force, gathering this forbidden spell-level explosion and soaring into the sky. Just when his spiritual force was almost unable to support it, he was shocked to find that a strange energy came from his chest, fusing into his celestial eye acupoint, and actually completed the originally impossible task. After all, he had just entered the realm of Archmage not long ago. No matter how strong his fusion of magic was, his spiritual force could not be taken advantage of. Nian Bing knew that it was Oscar who had helped him this time. Oscar's strange energy seemed to be very beneficial to his body. At the moment of the explosion, no one, including Long Ji, noticed that when his spiritual force was under great pressure in the huge explosive force, a layer of strange gray scales had appeared on Nian Bing's body. When the explosion was over, the layer of gray scales quietly disappeared. Li Hua looked in shock at the departing Long Ji, then turned back to look at Nian Bing. Archmage. In just a year, Nian Bing had reached the realm of Archmage. He had never heard of anyone who could reach this level at such a young age. To him, this was all too inconceivable, but it was all the truth. Nian Bing, what happened to your hair? Why did it turn white? Long Ling no longer cared about the results of the competition. She was most concerned about the changes in Nian Bing's appearance. Perhaps even an elder of the union like Li Hua did not know what was going on, but she, who had also learned the curse of life, deeply understood where Nian Bing's change came from. However, Nian Bing's appearance had not aged. Even so, her heartbeat had doubled. Nian Bing took Long Ling's small hand and smiled. Don't worry, I'm fine. It's only because I had a breakthrough in my magic cultivation that my hair became like this. I'm really sorry for disturbing everyone's cultivation. Nian Bing apologizes here. Everyone has seen my situation. Actually, age can't stop us from becoming powerful magicians. Everyone, I'm sorry for disturbing everyone's cultivation, especially young people like me. As long as everyone is willing to work hard, they can all become powerful magicians. All right, everyone can go back to work. I've just returned, so I'm going to take a rest. Teacher Li Hua, I'll have to trouble you to make me a few new magic robes. I don't need any special emblems, but please make the robes gold. It'll be a commemoration of my golden hair. Li Su was taken aback. Gold? Isn't that a little too arrogant? One had to know that the colors of magic robes were divided into 7 colors according to the school of magic. Light magicians' robes were white, spatial magicians' robes were silver, and dark magicians' robes were black. Water, fire, earth, and wind magicians' robes were blue, red, yellow, and green. As for the special nature magicians of the Longmu Empire, they wore green magic robes. Gold magic robes had never appeared on the continent. Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, Arrogant? I don't think so. I don't belong to any school of magic anymore. Do you want me to wear a colorful magic robe? Let's just make it gold. Finished speaking, he pulled Long Ling and walked out of the crowd. The way the magicians looked at Nian Bing was somewhat different. The older magician's eyes were filled with admiration and worry, while the younger magician's eyes were filled with fanaticism. They had all heard of Nian Bing's age. 20 years old. A mere 20 years old magician had actually reached the level of magister. In their hearts, Nian Bing's image had already become abnormally high. Arrogant? What I want is arrogance. Nian Bing secretly thought in her heart. In this world, it was a world where the strong survived. As long as you were strong enough, what did it matter if you were arrogant? She had always been low-key, but now she would not continue. For Ling, what she needed was fame. And this fame would start from within the ice and fire chef. She wanted everyone on the continent to know the title of white hair, gold, clothed ice, and fire chef. Fame was a double-edged sword. It would allow her to obtain a lot, but at the same time, it would make those vile people who only knew how to eat sour grapes jealous. If they wanted to be jealous, then let them be jealous. Only those who did not know how to work hard would always eat sour grapes. They could only hide in the dark. On the surface, their appearance was dim, but in reality, they had a belly full of thieves and prostitutes. So what if they used underhanded methods? She was not afraid. The tallest tree in the forest would be blown away by the wind. Good. Let's see how big the wind is going to blow at me. Ice and snow goddess priest. Even if you don't come looking for me, it won't be long before I come looking for you. Faintly smiling, Nian Bing's eyes revealed a faint brilliance. Long Ling suddenly felt that his hand holding hers was so firm. This man was like a mountain that she could always rely on. With him by her side, she would not be afraid. The worry in her eyes disappeared. Everything that Nian Bing had done since she came back had already told her a lot. What else did she need to worry about? Everything. She would leave it all to her man. Yes, he was her man. He would always be her only man. Even if he failed, so what? She would always have her own home. But in this life, she would only belong to this man. Leaning on Nian Bing's shoulder, Long Ling pointed to the side. Nian Bing faintly smiled and led her in that direction. It was the first time that Nian Bing had come to Long Ling's room. Her room was decorated very simply. All kinds of plush toys occupied most of the space. Every corner had their figures. The room's overall color was light purple, just like Long Ling's long purple hair. The elegant and warm atmosphere made Nian Bing's heart feel a lot more comfortable. He deeply felt that no matter what he did for Long Ling, it was all worth it. He pulled the shy Long Ling over, letting her sit on his lap, surrounding her warm and soft body. Smelling the faint fragrance on her body, Nian Bing's heart surged. Linger, it's been hard on you these days. Long Ling gently shook her head and gently smiled. She said, "It's all worth it, isn't it? I didn't wait in vain. I know that everything you did just now was for me." Linger, was it worth it? Of course it was worth it, Nian Bing said seriously. Linger, do you know? When I stepped into Ice Snow City again, I swore that in the future, no matter what, I would never let you cry for me again. Don't worry, for you, even if I have to take revenge in the future, I will definitely leave my life behind. Long Ling's eyes were as gentle as water. She took the initiative to lean into Nian Bing's arms and said softly, "Nian Bing, I'm so happy now. Do you know? Ever since you rejected me, Ling has not been happy for a single day. I also want to forget you, but I just can't. Even I don't know what I like about you, but I just like you. Nian Bing, I don't care about anything. As long as I can be by your side, it's enough. I know, you still have many things to do. I won't go with you because I don't want to be a burden to you. I only hope that you can remember. I won't go with you because I don't want to be a burden to you. I only hope that you can remember that no matter what you do, I will always support you and wait for you to come back." The gentleness of a gentle woman was enough to soften the hard metal. No matter how strong Nian Bing's spiritual power was, he couldn't control the emotions in his heart at a time like this. He was a little rough as he kissed those gentle lips. He kissed them deeply. Long Ling threw away her reservations and responded shakily. Her hands hooked around Nian Bing's neck. She only had one thought in her heart. At this moment, this man belonged to her. There seemed to be a fire in his heart, burning Nian Bing's heart. He forgot everything and abandoned all scruples. Unconsciously, he had already touched Long Ling's chest. Their breathing gradually became heavy, but he did not have any scruples. When he came back to find Long Ling, he had already decided that she would be his wife. As for Long Ling, she did not want to resist at all now. She did not dare to think about everything in the future. She was more willing to give herself to the man she loved most at this moment. Just when Yin Bing had already untied Long Ling's clothes and was preparing to continue the next step, a discordant voice sounded in his mind. "Hey, Yin Bing." The sudden voice startled Yin Bing. He quickly withdrew his hands that were searching for her. The desire in his heart suddenly dropped, and his body was a little sluggish. Yin Bing suddenly stopped, making Long Ling feel empty. She also subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. She leaned on Yin Bing's chest and kept panting. "Yin Bing, what happened to you?" Yin Bing smiled bitterly. "Nothing, Ling-er. Let me hold you tight, okay?" As he spoke, he hugged the dragon spirit tightly. In his warm embrace, the dragon spirit's heart was filled with gratification. It closed its eyes and fell asleep under Yin Bing's hypnosis spell, which was based on dark magic. For the first time in so many days, she slept so contentedly. Compared to Long Ling's contentment and calmness, Yin Bing was angrily scolding some ignorant guy at this time. "Kaka, you deliberately went against me, didn't you? Who told you to peek?" How could Yin Bing be in a good mood when his good thing was ruined? Oscar laughed and said, "I say, old man, you can't blame me for this. Who told us to share the same body now? Well, you can see and feel. Of course I can feel it too. I feel so wronged. I obviously helped you just now. Not only did you not thank me, but you also blame me. Without my help, would you be able to send that explosive force to the sky so smoothly?" Hearing Oscar's words, Yin Bing's anger disappeared. He asked doubtfully, "Have you mastered the way to control your own energy? What exactly is that gray energy of yours?" Oscar said, "I haven't figured it out yet. How could it be so easy? My energy is very strange. As long as I feel the energy in your body, I will have a very comfortable feeling. Previously, the sense of crisis that appeared in your spiritual power woke me up from my cultivation, so I helped you while I was at it. I found that my energy is not like your magical power. It is formed by the combination of a magical power and spiritual power. As for the specific effect, I will have to wait for more cultivation to determine." Yin Bing said somewhat helplessly, "Well, brother, you can continue to sleep. Work hard to cultivate your ability. I hope you won't make a sound next time." Oscar chuckled and said, "That's hard to say. You were very emotional just now. When you were too excited, I will wake up again. It's very likely that I will wake up again. Who asked us to share the same body?" Yin Bing said bitterly, "You did it on purpose. I will definitely open my 7 apertures as soon as possible to reshape your body and get you out of there." In fact, he was very grateful to Oscar for helping him at such a crucial time. However, who would be willing to have someone watch him being intimate with the woman he loved? Oscar did not make a sound and seemed to have entered a deep sleep. Yin Bing kissed Long Ling's forehead lightly and carefully placed her on the bed, letting her sleep peacefully. Pulling a chair and sitting down, Yin Bing's mind changed all kinds of thoughts. Today, for Ling, he impulsively proposed a bet to Long Ji. Since he had already proposed it, he could not regret it. However, just as Long Ji said, how could he affect the political situation of the entire Ice Moon Empire? Helping the first prince or the second prince was obviously the best choice. They already had a certain amount of power. However, if he really helped them, would they be under his control? That was definitely impossible. Kill Yin Yin? This was not difficult, but killing him would very likely implicate the Magician's Guild, which would also implicate Ling-er. This was definitely not desirable. At that time, Long Ji would also not approve of him. If he wanted to sincerely hand Ling-er over to him, then he had to help him achieve his wish. What should he do? Thinking about it, a figure suddenly appeared in Yin Bing's mind. A familiar figure. Him. It should be him. Although he was somewhat helpless, but he had to make a choice. At least, he firmly believed that the person he wanted to help could definitely be trusted. The person Yin Bing thought of was the 7th Prince Yin Feng, who had no power in the Ice Moon Empire. The Yin Juhua who Ling Yin Bing almost vomited. Although his sexual orientation made Ling Yin Bing shudder, Yin Bing believed that he was a trustworthy friend. If he could help him ascend to the throne of the Ice Moon Empire, it would clearly be the best choice. When the time came and he asked him to take care of the Magician's Guild, he would definitely not refuse. However, there was a problem. Although Yin Feng was also one of the princes, his power was too weak, and he had such a special hobby. Outsiders might not know, but how could the royal family not know? It was too difficult for him to become the king. It was definitely not enough to rely on himself. Thinking of this, Nian Bing's mind raced, thinking about the power he could use. Longji was wrong about one thing. The current Nian Bing was no longer a person. The hidden power he had was beyond Long Ji's imagination. Just the fire dragon king Garamandes had reached the level of the ice goddess priest. What's more, he still had friends. It would not be difficult to ask for help from friends. Garamandes, Hillard, and his grandfather, one by one, flashed through his mind. Nian Bing kept thinking and had roughly decided on what to do in the future. Thinking of this, he walked out of Long Ling's room and quietly left the Magician's Guild. Nian Bing was most satisfied with the innate Qi's self-recovery ability. He did not need to deliberately cultivate, and the magical power and mental strength that he consumed would gradually recover. Especially with the help of the Tianming acupoint, he did not need to rest, and his mental strength could quickly recover to its peak state. Walking along the street, Nian Bing soon stopped in front of a shop. This was a shop that sold all kinds of magical items. The shop was medium-sized and did not stand out on the street. Walking into the shop, Nian Bing looked around. At this time, there were no other customers in the shop. A waiter came up to him. "Sir, what would you like to order?" Nian Bing said indifferently, "Lion King Rangoon." A strange light flashed in the waiter's eyes. He nodded and said, "The item you want is very precious. Please follow me to the back hall." As he spoke, he led Nian Bing to the back of the shop. After passing through the counter and entering a small door, the waiter did not say much. He rhythmically tapped a few times on the wall. With a click, a secret door opened, and a long and narrow staircase led to the ground. The waiter nodded to Nian Bing. Nian Bing did not hesitate and immediately went down the stairs. The door behind him closed naturally, leaving no trace behind. He put on a smile and continued to walk forward. Ordinary magical gems were inlaid on both sides of the narrow passage. These gems provided a faint light in the passage. The further down he went, the stronger the magical aura. After descending about 20 meters and making 2 turns, Nian Bing arrived at an underground stone room. In the corner, a cold voice sounded, "Lion King Rangoon." Nian Bing did not look in that direction. He calmly said, "Fiery Continent." Through his Tian Yin acupoint, he could clearly feel that there were at least a few people in this small stone room. Every one of them was not weak, but they hid their auras very well. A figure walked out from a corner. This person was dressed in black, had short black hair, a medium build, and an ordinary appearance. He was the kind of person who could not be recognized in a crowd. However, the light in his eyes was not ordinary. There was a hint of coldness in his calm eyes. The light in his eyes flickered as he carefully looked at Nian Bing. Nian Bing also looked at him without saying a word. The man in black said, "Please show your tokens." Nian Bing's left hand flashed, and an exquisitely carved red jade lion with a faint red glow appeared. The man in black was clearly stunned. Then, he immediately knelt on one knee and respectfully said, "Greetings, sect leader." Nian Bing was also a little stunned. "Sect leader? You said I'm the sect leader?" The man in black said with certainty, "Yes, we only recognize lions, not people. Only the sect leader can have a blood lion. You have a token, so you are our sect leader. I'm the blood lion sex, ice snow flag sex, ice moon sect leader." Nian Bing took a deep breath and said, "Stand up." Not long after he left the capital city, Prince Rong had a serious talk with him. Because Nian Bing promised to take over the Rong family in the future, Prince Rong told him a secret that only the leader of the Rong family knew. That was the underground power of the Rong family in the entire Yangon continent. Only Prince Rong knew about this. This underground power had been formed for thousands of years. Prince Rong did not tell Nian Bing how big this underground power was, but he clearly told him that this underground power was called the Bloodline Sect. The members of this underground power would not have to worry about loyalty. The red jade lion was the token. As long as he used this lion to confirm his identity, he would give an order, and the members of the bloodline sect would do their best to carry it out. Chapter 136. However, Prince Roan did not tell him that the red jade lion was actually the leader of the blood cult. Looking at Blood kneeling in front of her, Nian Bing calmly said, "Stand up." Blood stood up and respectfully said, "Leader, may I ask demonic lion?" Speaking to this point, his eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of sadness. Demonic lion was referring to Prince Roan. Prince Roan had told Nian Bing before that in the bloodline cult, there were people in all kinds of professions. Everyone only had a code name and no real name. His code name was Demonic Lion. Nian Bing understood Blood's meaning and said, "Demonic Lion is fine, but he passed this blood lion token to me. I think I understand his meaning now. From now on, I'm the leader of the bloodline cult." Blood's expression turned solemn and said, "Leader, please give me your code name. I will send it to every hall and every banner as soon as possible. We will await your orders at any time." Nian Bing's eyes flashed and said, "My code name will be White Hair." Demonic Lion did not tell me too much about the cult. Now, tell me about the situation of the bloodline cult. Blood nodded and said, "Our cult has been established for 1,364 years. Our cult system is strict and we follow orders. The highest leader is the cult leader who holds the blood lion token. Every generation of cult leaders will pass down the bloodline token before they die and send a message to the bloodline hall, the highest elder hall of the cult, for confirmation. This is to prevent the bloodline token from being stolen. Under the cult leader, the bloodline hall's 7 elders are in charge. The bloodline hall is jointly managed by the 7 elders. There are 500 blood guards. They are the elites of the cult and are in charge of some of the most difficult and special operations. Our cult members are engaged in all kinds of professions on the continent. Other than the Bloodline Hall, there are 5 other halls. They are called Huarong Hall, Longmu Hall, Ice Moon Hall, Chilu Hall, and Aolon Hall. There are flags under each of the 5 halls. Each flag is in charge of a city, regardless of the size of the city. Each flag has the same number of people according to the size of the city. Using my Ice Snow flag as an example, there are a total of 267 members. The members of our cult have different titles according to their ranks. The sect leader was the only blood lion. Below the sect leader, the 7 elders were also known as the Golden Lion Elders. Below them were the hall masters of the 5 halls. The hall masters were at the Silver Lion level. Next up, we banner masters are of the Red Lion rank. Apart from the Bloodline Hall's blood guards, all of the combatants are divided into 7 ranks in descending order: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. Among them, unless the Red Lion Banner Master had made a special contribution to the cult, he must at least possess a yellow rank combat ability. As for the Hall Masters and Elders, they had to reach the red level. The red level was equivalent to a swordsman or an archmage. The weakest purple level was equivalent to a swordsman. Without the strength of a swordsman or above, one could not become a combatant. That is to say, the combat strength of our sect's combat personnel is more refined. After hearing the blood, Nian Bing couldn't help being shocked. Originally, she had thought that the Bloodline cult was just a secret intelligence network of the Roan family. But now, it seemed that the Bloodline cult was not just a simple intelligence network. The Roan family's hidden strength was actually not any weaker than what they appear to be. Why did her grandfather give her the position of the Bloodline cult's leader? If the strength of the Bloodline cult's red level was equivalent to that of a swordsman, what did that mean? The 5 hall masters and 7 elders were all swordsmen. Heavens, there were suddenly 12 swordsmen. Adding on the Bloodline cult's strength in the entire continent, it was simply too terrifying. Originally, she didn't have any confidence in supporting Yin Feng to take the throne, but with the support of the Bloodline cult, her confidence increased greatly. Looking at Nian Bing's constantly changing expression, Blood coughed and said, "Cult leader, do you have any other orders?" Nian Bing thought for a while, then raised the Bloodline command in her hand and said, "Pass down my order." In the shortest time possible, Transfer 80% of the Bloodline cult combatants who are green level and above to the Ice Moon Empire's capital, Ice Moon City. The 5 Hall Masters and 7 Elders will also be transferred to Ice Moon City and await further orders. This operation's codename is Sky Change. Hearing that Nian Bing wanted to transfer so many people at once, Blood couldn't help but be shocked. Cult leader, do you really want to transfer so many people? Nian Bing didn't answer and continued. At the same time, use the cult's intelligence network to collect everything about the princes of the Ice Moon Empire. Once the information is collected, transfer it directly to Ice Moon City. Soon, I will go to the Ice Moon Empire's Ice Moon flag to give the following orders. Blood felt a trace of coldness from Nian Bing and said respectfully, "This subordinate obeys." Nian Bing took a deep look at Blood and said, "Send my orders to Demonic Lion and let him know. Send 2 capable people to follow me. Give me 3 claps as a signal and wait for my orders." "Yes, cult leader." "All right, do what I told you to do as soon as possible. I'll be leaving first." After personally sending Nian Bing out of the magic item shop, Blood returned to the secret room and shouted, "Men!" A black shadow seemed to float out from the wall and kneeled down on one knee in front of him and said respectfully, "Flag Master." Blood said, "Send 2 green-level brothers to follow the cult leader and wait for his orders. Go to the Bloodline Hall personally and report everything that happened here to the elders, including the cult leader's orders. Let them make the decision. You must confirm the cult leader's identity first. I feel that this person is a bit strange. I can't feel any aura from him, as if he's just an ordinary person. White hair, there's actually such a young cult leader." He didn't notice that on the corner of the wall, a faint silver light quietly disappeared. Standing on the street, Nian Bing revealed a faint smile on his face and said to himself, "Meticulous thoughts, as expected of a flag master. Since Grandpa gave me the Bloodline token, he should have already arranged everything for me. Looks like I really have to meet the cult leader as soon as possible. From now on, they'll be my eyes." When Nian Bing returned to Long Ling's room, Long Ling was still sleeping soundly. Her sleeping face was as beautiful as ever, and a trace of satisfaction appeared on her gentle face. Nian Bing helped her pull up the blanket, and only then did he walk out of the room to look for Long Ji. "Teacher, may I come in?" Nian Bing lightly knocked on Long Ji's door. Long Ji's voice sounded from inside the room. "Come in." Nian Bing pushed open the door and walked into Long Ji's room. This was his first time here. However, every time he came here, he couldn't help but admire Long Ji's persistence. There was nothing in the room apart from a meditation cushion. In order to improve his magic, Long Ji had been cultivating almost every day. Nian Bing walked to the opposite side of Long Ji and directly sat down on the ground. "Teacher, before I came back today, I went to Qing Feng Zhai. Uncle Xue Ji wants to invite us to dinner tonight." Long Ji didn't answer the question. "What is your domain?" Nian Bing smiled and said, "I call it the Sky, I domain." Long Ji sighed. "I didn't expect that after so many years of hard work. I'm not as good as you, a newcomer who has only been cultivating magic for 10 years. It seems that I'm really old." Today's defeat not only made Long Ji have a whole new level of respect for Nian Bing, but at the same time, it also made his ambition to develop the Magician's Union fade a lot. Nian Bing said, "Teacher, sometimes being too persistent is not a good thing. Maybe you think that the most precious thing for you is the Union, but you're wrong. For you, the most precious thing should be Ling Er. If you use the most precious thing in exchange for the prosperity of the Union, do you really think it's worth it? Actually, you don't need to be discouraged. Although my magic power has already stepped into the door of Magister, there is still a big gap between you and me. The reason why I was able to defeat you today was because my 7 blades played an important role. If I didn't use them and just relied on my innate domain, it wouldn't be easy for me to defeat you. At the same level, the technique of control is the key to victory. You seem to have neglected this aspect." Long Ji's face revealed a trace of a smile. "I have to admit that you are a genius. I'm almost certain you will become a god-descending master in the continent. Although the Ice Goddess Priestess is strong, but when she was your age, she definitely didn't have the results you have now. Nian Bing, I'm proud of you. However, my thoughts will not change. I'll give you 3 months. If you can't show me some results in 3 months, then you know the result. Nian Bing stood up and walked towards the door while saying, Teacher, I'm not some gentleman. In these 3 months, I will definitely do my best. However, if I fail, then I won't let Ling marry that 5th prince. Tonight, please come with us to the Cool Breeze study. It's been a long time since I've tasted Master Ming's cooking. Long Ji's heart was startled. Nian Bing had already walked out of the room. He clearly felt the intense, killing intent emitted by Nian Bing just now. That killing intent wasn't directed at him. It could be imagined that it was directed at. The dinner at the Cool Breeze study ended in a calm and harmonious atmosphere. During the dinner, the happiest person was Long Ling sitting beside Nian Bing. She ate with great relish. The happiness that she hadn't felt in a long time had once again appeared on her body. Xu Weijing appeared to be very calm. She sat on the other side of Long Ling and ate peacefully. She didn't even look at Nian Bing and Garamandes. Long Ji acted as if nothing had happened. He was chatting happily with Polar Snow and Ming Hui. Ming Yuan and Ming Hui also attended this banquet. Nian Bing's appearance made them very excited. The 3 of them exchanged pointers on their culinary skills, and they all felt that they had gained a lot. Teacher, I want to stay at the Cool Breeze study for a few days. After 2 days, I want to go to Ice Moon City to experience the cooking there. Nian Bing smiled and said to Long Ji. Before Long Ji could reply, Long Ling panicked. Nian Bing, you finally come back. How can you go back to the Union to stay? Nian Bing squeezed Long Ling's soft little hand under the table. Through his spiritual power and soul, his voice sounded directly in Long Ling's heart. Aren't you afraid that I'll eat you tonight? Long Ling's face instantly turned red. Looking at her shy appearance, Nian Bing really wanted to go back with her and eat her up. However, thinking that he still had many things to do, he forced himself to suppress the thoughts in his heart. Linger, be good. From now on, I will work hard for our future. Long Ling lowered her head and didn't say anything. Long Ji looked at his daughter with some surprise and said, All right then, Old Shue's place is indeed more comfortable than the Union's. Long Ling reluctantly left with Long Ji. Xu Weijing actually took the initiative to send Nian Bing and Garamandes back to their room. The 3 of them walked in the elegant environment of the Cool Breeze study. When they arrived at the courtyard where Nian Bing and Garamandes were staying, Xu Weijing stopped and said in a deep voice, That Long something, you can go back first. I have something to say to Nian Bing. Garamandes was stunned for a moment and said unhappily, My name is Long Hua, not Long something. Xu Weijing said unhappily, Long Hua, that's enough. You can go back first. Nian Bing said, Xu Weijing, if you have something to say, just say it. Brother Long is an outsider. Xu Weijing bit her lower lip and said, Do you really like Ling Er? Nian Bing nodded firmly. Xu Weijing took a deep breath and seemed to have decided something. All right then. You must treat Ling Er well. For Ling Er's sake, let's forget about our past. But if you dare to let her down, don't blame me for being impolite. Nian Bing was stunned for a moment and looked at Xu Weijing with a puzzled expression. Xu Weijing blushed under his gaze and said, What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a beauty before? You stinky men, how can you compare to us sisters? I've said what I wanted to say. Just remember it. After saying that, she immediately turned and ran away. Looking at Xu Weijing's departing figure, Nian Bing was finally sure that the grudge between her and her had really disappeared. She couldn't help but shake her head helplessly. Women, really fickle animals. Garamandes pretended to be angry and said, You're not allowed to call her an animal. Nian Bing chuckled and said, If she wasn't an animal, how could she be with you? When Garamandes heard this, his face fell. I say, brother, what do you think I should do now? Nian Bing obviously knew what he was referring to. She smiled and said, Don't be anxious. I'm not sure about Xu Weijing's temper either. We can only take one step at a time. Since you really like her, you have to care about time. How about this? Tomorrow I'll go and talk to Uncle Xu Weijing and let you take Xu Weijing as your disciple. Garamandes's eyes almost popped out. His voice rose an octave. What? You want me to take her as my disciple? Nian Bing said matter-of-factly. If you can't get close to her, how can you win her heart? Only by interacting more and understanding more will you have a chance. More importantly, you have to let her understand how powerful you are. Garamandes smiled bitterly and said, but that Xueji doesn't have any good feelings towards me. Will he agree? Nian Bing smiled and said, then it'll be up to me. You can't chase girls, but can't you have enough strength? Don't forget, you're the great fire dragon king, Garamandes. I'll stay here for at most 2 days, then I'll make a trip to Ice Moon City. During this period of time, you have to cultivate your relationship with Xuejing. You have to remember, you can't be too hasty. You have to do your job well first. At the very least, you have to gain the trust and good feelings of the father and daughter before you can proceed to the next step. Whether you can succeed or not, it'll be up to you. During this period of time, I'll have a trouble big brother to help me protect Ling. Today, that fifth prince is not only interested in Xuejing. At the same time, he also has bad intentions towards Ling. When I'm not here, I'll have to trouble you. Garamandes laughed and said, you're really good at chasing girls. You've just sent off Feng Nu, and now there's Ling. I didn't have time to ask you at dinner tonight. This Miss Ling looks pretty good too. However, don't tell me you want both of them. Will they agree? Aren't you afraid that they'll overturn the jar of vinegar? Nian Bing smiled and said, I've already told Feng Nu about Ling. Ling also knows about Feng Nu's existence. To me, I can't give up either one of them now. At this point, the smile on his face couldn't help but turn into a bitter smile. He himself didn't know what it would be like when Long Ling and Feng Nu met again in the future. After returning to his room, Nian Bing sat on his bed and began to meditate. As he meditated, he also thought about what had happened today. He straightened out his thoughts. The 7 solid magic energy balls in his body absorbed the magic energy in the air at least 3 times faster than normal magicians through the use of Xiantian Qi. He had just entered the realm of Archmage, so he needed to consolidate his strength in order to strengthen himself. The next morning, Nian Bing ate breakfast and went to find Xueji alone. He asked to have a chat with him. Xueji happily agreed and directly brought him to the study. Uncle Xue, I came to find you today to talk about Big Brother Long. When Xueji heard that Nian Bing wanted to talk to him about Garamandes, he immediately frowned. Nian Bing, other things could be discussed. However, I really can't accept Longhua. Jing also won't like him, so you don't need to say anything more. Nian Bing smiled slightly and said, although I don't completely understand how Big Brother Long offended you, but what I want to talk to you about today is, it's not a matter of feelings. After all, in terms of feelings, for 2 people to like each other, it can't be forced. Since Xuejing doesn't have that kind of feelings for Big Brother Long, how can I make things difficult for you? Xueji looked at Nian Bing said with a bit of surprise. Then what do you mean? Nian Bing said, you should have seen that Big Brother Long's strength is extremely strong, and he also cultivates the fire attribute Do Qi. Actually, he's a very good person. It's only because he likes Xuejing too much that he did something rude. I apologize to you on his behalf first. I'm going to Ice Moon City tomorrow, so it's a bit inconvenient to bring Big Brother Long along. I want him to stay here and wait for me, but Big Brother Long is willing to eat and drink here for free. I've discussed with him, and if you're willing, we can let Big Brother Long teach Xuejing some martial arts. Of course, I promise you, he definitely won't bother Xuejing anymore, and will only teach her martial arts. Xueji smiled. Nian Bing, you brat said that you won't force her, but aren't you still creating opportunities for them? Nian Bing said indifferently, Uncle Xue, perhaps you have a good impression of that 5th prince, but there's something I have to tell you. 5th prince has already proposed marriage to teacher Long Ji. What? Xueji was shocked. Isn't Ling very close to you? A cold light flashed in Nian Bing's eyes, and she said, of course, I won't let Ling become the sacrifice of a political marriage. So, I still have a lot of things to do. I'm telling you this because I want you to know that 5th prince isn't someone who's worthy of Xuejing entrusting her life to. This time, even if you give Big Brother Long a chance, he's really only going to teach Xuejing some martial arts. Speaking up to here, she paused for a moment before continuing. In terms of strength, I'm afraid that you can't find more than a few people in the entire mainland who can match this big brother-long of mine. As long as he's here, I believe that all of these troubles will naturally disappear." Hearing Nian Bing's subtle hints and adding in his understanding of Garamandes, Shueji couldn't help but feel moved. "All right, I'll believe you this time. But you have to make it clear to that brat Long Hua that he's only going to teach Jing a martial arts." Nian Bing smiled slightly and said, "Don't worry, Big Brother Long won't do anything rash again." After leaving the Clear Wind house, Nian Bing walked to a secluded corner and struck her palms 3 times. Immediately, 2 gray figures quietly appeared beside her without making a single sound. Nian Bing said indifferently, "Tell Blood that I'll be heading to Ice Moon City tomorrow, so the people of the Ice Moon Empire don't need to go. Pay attention to the 5th prince of the Ice Moon Empire who's staying in the city at all times. If he does anything that's detrimental to the Magician's Guild, you have to protect Miss Long Ling." She spoke very quickly and immediately walked towards the main street, heading towards the Magician's Guild. Of the 2 gray figures, one flew away, while the other continued to follow Nian Bing from afar. Before reaching the entrance of Magician's Guild, Nian Bing saw Long Ling standing outside the guild looking in his direction, and he couldn't help but feel a surge of warmth in his heart. Compared to Long Ling, Feng Nu was more independent, and Feng Nu had her own thoughts and pursuits. However, Long Ling only had him in her heart, and that feeling of dependence was something that Feng Nu didn't have. They were both his loved ones, but the feelings that Feng Nu and Long Ling gave him were completely different. With a faint smile, Nian Bing quickly walked over, and Long Ling pulled on his large hand without any hesitation. "You're here so late? The sun is already shining on our buttocks." Today, Long Ling's complexion was clearly better than yesterday, and her charming face had a bit more color. Her eyes were filled with joy as she looked at Nian Bing. "Silly girl, the distance from the Clear Wind house to here is very short, so even if I had to walk, it would still take some time. Why did you come out to wait for me?" Long Ling lowered her head and said, "I was afraid that you would suddenly disappear. That's why I waited for you here." "How could that be? I can't bear to part with my Ling." As they spoke, the 2 of them walked hand in hand into the guild. The young magician's standing guard looked at the 2 of them, and their eyes were filled with envy. As they walked, Long Ling sighed softly and said, "Nian Bing, actually, sometimes I don't even know what kind of person you are. You always have so many secrets, do you know? This kind of you always gives me a feeling of unease. My heart is very conflicted, and I'm really afraid that you won't want me anymore." As she spoke, her eyes couldn't help but turn red. Nian Bing wasn't in a hurry to explain, and tightly held Long Ling's small hand, and said in a low voice, "Linger, I've always brought you too much trouble, so today I'm here. I want to tell you everything about myself, including all my experiences. I won't hide anything from you. Between you and me, there's no need for any secrets. Perhaps this way you'll have more confidence in me." Long Ling stopped and raised her head to look at Nian Bing. Soon, she gently shook her head. She said, "No need. Nian Bing, I believe in you. You should have your own privacy." Nian Bing pulled Long Ling over as if there was no one around, and kissed her forehead, saying, "Silly girl, privacy is for outsiders. You're my future wife. What privacy do you need?" "Ah, annoying, there are still people here." Long Ling shyly lowered her head to her chest, and dared to look at the magicians passing by on both sides. Nian Bing smiled faintly. Pulling Long Ling up, she cast a wind magic on both of them, and floated back to Long Ling's boudoir. She cast a soundproof barrier in the room. Still holding her like yesterday, Nian Bing talked about his childhood, telling Long Ling his story. This talk took no less than half a day. Just as Nian Bing said himself, he didn't hold back at all, started from his parents, talking about his childhood, as well as where the deep hatred with the Ice Goddess priest came from, all the way to the recent competition, talking about himself and Feng Nu. Except for his identity as Garamandes and the 7 Dragon Kings, he talked about all his experiences before coming here. Nian Bing's narration was very dull, but it set off a huge wave in Long Ling's heart. Only now did she know that the man she had always loved deeply had actually experienced so many calamities. Compared to him, she was already much luckier. Okay, I've already said what I need to say. You know everything after coming here. Linger, about the matter of me being born in the wrong family. Don't tell teacher first, okay? Long Ling leaned on Nian Bing's chest. She kept her head down, listening to Nian Bing in silence. Until Nian Bing finished everything, she didn't say a word. Nian Bing, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Don't say sorry. I should be the one who's sorry. Ling, I carried such a deep hatred, and my enemy was so powerful. At that time, I really dared to accept your feelings. Only after going through so much with Feng Nu did I understand what it means to cherish. Can you forgive me for the past? Long Ling raised her head to look at Nianbing. Her beautiful big eyes had long been covered with a layer of mist. Suddenly, her face became serious. I can't forgive you. I believe that everything you said just now is true, but there's one thing you didn't say. When did you use the life curse? Nianbing was shocked. He didn't say anything about the 7 Dragon Kings, but his white hair, Long Ling remembered it deeply. Now that she heard Nianbing's story, she asked the question in her heart. Nianbing hesitated and said, I'm sorry, Ling. I can't tell you this. Indeed, I used a life curse. At that time, I didn't have a choice. In order to protect my friend, I had to do that. Don't ask, okay? This matter is related to my friend's secret. I really can't say. Long Ling looked deeply at Nian Bing, nodded, and said, Okay, I won't ask. But I want to tell you, if you die, then I will go find you. Nian Bing's whole body shook. Strong feelings spread in his chest. Once again, he deeply kissed those moving lips. Long Ling responded passionately. Between each other, they seemed to want to melt each other. Nian Bing nimbly turned over, pressing Long Ling under his body. A small spark was gradually developing in the direction of a prairie fire. Just at this time, that untimely voice sounded again. Nian Bing's mind called out, Nian Bing. Stopping his movements, Nian Bing angrily shouted in his heart, Kaka, I'm going to strangle you to death. Idiot, don't tell me you can't feel the danger outside, Oscar said disdainfully. With a thought, Ling Nian Bing, who was originally blinded by lust, opened his Tian Yin acupoint, feeling everything in the outside world. Suddenly, a cold aura spread in the air, and Nian Bing calmed down. He hurriedly jumped down from the bed, blocking in front of Long Ling. His innate domain instantly erupted, filling the whole room. Chapter 137. Long Ling woke up instantly under the influence of the Khanate realm. She could clearly feel that her senses had been strengthened several times in this rainbow realm. The ice elements continuously flowed into her body, making her feel indescribably comfortable. To her, the Khanate realm was something she had only heard of. This was the first time she had experienced the mysteries of the Khanate realm. Nian Bing, come out. A cold voice sounded. Ling Nian Bing's heart skipped a beat. He immediately remembered who had come. He turned to Long Ling and said softly, Wait for me in the room. Don't go out. Leave everything to me. He retracted the Khanate realm and opened the door. Just as he had expected, a woman was standing in the middle of the courtyard. She was wearing a snow-white magician's robe with a white veil over her face. Nian Bing naturally recognized her. She was Qinhuan Bingyun, the opponent he had narrowly defeated in the New Star Magician competition. She was also his enemy's braid. Seeing Qinhuan Bingyun, Nian Bing couldn't help but have the urge to laugh. This beauty who claimed to be cold and pure actually fell for his breast-grabbing hand during the competition that day. Thinking about it, it was really ridiculous. You found me so quickly. Miss Bingyun, didn't your master come with you? Nian Bing looked at Bingyun calmly. More than 2 months had passed. He was no longer the Nian Bing from the competition. Bingyun's ice goddess realm posed no threat to him at all. Bingyun looked at Nian Bing's half-smile, and the anger in her heart had reached its peak. Nian Bing's last grab during the competition was a great humiliation to her. Bingyun hated it. She had always wanted to find Nian Bing for revenge. However, before she could find Nian Bing had already quietly left Capital City. On her way back, Bingyun searched everywhere for Nian Bing, but to no avail. She had no choice but to return to the Ice God Tower. The Ice Goddess Priestess was in closed-door cultivation. Bing Yun was also in closed-door cultivation for a period of time, but Nian Bing's hateful appearance often appeared in her mind. Her originally pure heart couldn't calm down no matter what, so she couldn't go into closed-door cultivation. Just yesterday, she had clearly felt the power of the 7 elemental spells erupting at the same time. Although the distance was very far, with her cultivation and the use of her innate domain, she could still clearly sense the direction of the energy explosion. Thus, she traveled day and night, using her blizzard magic to fly over. When she reached Ice Snow City, she naturally went straight to the Ice Moon Empire's Magic Guild. To deal with a vile person like you, do you think you deserve my master's help? Layer after layer of frost-like aura constantly emitted from Bing Yun's body. Nian Bing faintly smiled and said, "But don't forget, this is the Ice Moon Empire's Magic Guild, not your Ice God Tower. In my territory, what chance do you think you have?" Bing Yun snorted and said, "If you are still a man, then have a fair duel with me. I won't stop until one of us is dead." Nian Bing laughed mischievously and said, "Whether I am a man or not, I'm afraid you will only know when we are in bed. You bastard." Bing Yun instantly exploded like a barrel of dynamite. The Ice Goddess domain instantly burst forth, and in the blink of an eye, Nian Bing's body was already surrounded by a layer of frost. At the same time, Nian Bing could clearly sense that although the Snow Goddess domain had enveloped him, the illusory ice cloud had flown high into the sky. It was obvious that the illusory ice cloud was afraid of his eternal sleep magic array. "Qianhuan Bingyun, you are underestimating me, Nian Bing. After going through life and death with the 7 Dragon Kings, do you think you are still my match?" The Sky Eye domain erupted along with the Ice Goddess domain at the same time. When the ice met the 7 elemental domains, it instantly disintegrated. The additional attack power of the Ice Goddess domain simply couldn't pose any threat to Nian Bing. Through the senses of the Sky Eye acupoint, Nian Bing accurately located Qianhuan Bingyun's position. Light flashed in her eyes, and the wind shadow puppet floated out, passing through the Ice Goddess domain and rising into the sky. After his battle with Long Ji the day before, Nian Bing discovered that the energy his wind shadow puppet absorbed disappeared very quickly after absorbing Long Ji's wind magic. It didn't maintain the same level of strength as the shadow puppet after absorbing the energy. She also didn't understand what was going on. The proud heaven blade carried a dazzling rainbow as it broke through the sky. Under the enhancement of the Sky Eye domain, it passed through the Ice Goddess domain in the blink of an eye, rushing towards Bing Yun in the sky. The Sky Eye acupoint was the nemesis of any psychedelic magic. Although Bing Yun's body was hidden behind a large expanse of ice and snow, she simply couldn't escape the pursuit of the Sky Eye acupoint. While continuously chanting an incantation, Bing Yun released a dual-colored ice sphere in an attempt to block the wind shadow puppet. However, Nian Bing's 7 wind shadow puppets formed from her innate chi had the power equivalent to a spell of the 7th step even outside the Sky Eye domain. Moreover, she still had the proud heaven blade in her hands. The azure rainbow pierced through the sky. Amidst an ear-piercing grinding sound, the dual-colored ice sphere was split into 2. Azure light flashed, and it chased after Bing Yun's body. Bing Yun was alarmed. The magic staff in her hand trembled rhythmically, and circles of icy blue air floated out, blocking the wind shadow puppet's advance. Only after withdrawing and releasing the Ice Goddess domain again and again did she barely manage to force the wind shadow puppet back to the ground. A rainbow radiance surrounded Nian Bing's body, gently pulsating. The 7 wind shadow puppets surrounded him. Through the Sky Eye domain, he was helping the wind shadow puppets replenish their energy. Innate domain. Bing Yun looked at Nian Bing below her in shock. Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, "What? Could it be that only you can have an innate domain?" Their battle had already attracted the attention of the magicians in the Union. A large number of magicians rushed over from all directions. Bing Yun glared hatefully at Nian Bing and said, Fine, just you wait. The matter between us isn't over yet. As she said this, she suddenly sped up and flew into the distance. Nian Bing coldly said, "Of course it's not over yet. Miss Bingyan, I think we'll meet again soon." He didn't chase after her. Icon Library still wasn't the time to find trouble with the Ice God Tower. Qianhuan Bingyun's appearance gave him a bold idea. Of course, this idea needed time to be realized. The 7 wind shadow puppets disappeared at the same time with the 7 magic blades. Long Ji floated over and asked, "Nian Bing, who are you fighting with?" Nian Bing smiled and said, "Naturally, it's the people you hate the most. The Ice God Tower has already noticed me. Teacher, I will be leaving Ice Snow City early tomorrow morning. Don't forget our bet." Long Ji was shocked and asked, "People from the Ice God Tower?" Nian Bing nodded and said, "They're coming for me. They're coming for Qianhuan Bingyun, who lost to me in the competition this time. What puzzles me is that even though I have the stone of the Ice Goddess, why didn't the Ice Goddess Priestess appear? Could it be that the stone of the Ice Goddess is no longer important to them?" Nian Bing wasn't afraid of the Ice Goddess Priestess appearance. Although his current strength wasn't enough, there was still the Fire Dragon King and Garamandes in Ice Snow City. The Ice Goddess Priestess' strength wouldn't be much stronger than Garamandes. Even if she really came, Nian Bing wasn't afraid. Long Ling walked out of the room. She didn't ask anything and just gently snuggled up to Nian Bing. Breeze room. Xuejing looked at Garamandes, who was brought by Xueji, and said angrily, "Father, are you kidding me? Let him teach me martial arts?" Xueji already knew that his daughter would have such a reaction. He smiled and said, "Why not? In this world, the strong are respected. Your current strength is only at the level of a great swordsman. You have also seen Mr. Long's ability. With his guidance, your strength will increase even faster." Xuejing snorted and said, "You want me to learn martial arts from a despicable person like him? Impossible. What ability does he have? He only knows how to do sneaky things." Garamandes didn't say anything. He only looked at Xuejing in silence, causing Xuejing to feel uneasy. Xueji said, "Everyone has their own strengths. You can rest assured. Mr. Long was introduced to you by Nian Bing. He will only teach you martial arts. It doesn't matter if you don't want to learn from him, as long as you can defeat him." Before bringing Garamandes here, he had carefully thought about Nian Bing's words. He had to re-evaluate Garamandes. Xuejing sneered and said, "That's good. If you want to take me as your disciple, you should at least give me a greeting gift. As long as I'm satisfied with the gift, I will consider learning martial arts from you." As she said that, she stretched out her slender hand. Although she had a bad temper, it didn't mean that she wasn't smart. She didn't know how strong Garamandes was, but she was very clear that she was no match for Garamandes. So, she immediately thought of another way to make things difficult for him. Garamandes smiled bitterly and said, "This is the first time I have seen a disciple like you. You haven't even acknowledged me as your master, and you are already threatening me. All right, this is for you." A red light flashed in his hand, and an unremarkable red dagger appeared in his hand. He handed it to Xuejing. Xuejing looked at Garamandes with some surprise. "You also know magic?" Space-type magic items couldn't be activated without magic power. Garamandes laughed and said, "I don't know how many people want to take me as their master. Not bad. Not only do I know martial arts, I'm also proficient in some magic. I can be considered a magic warrior." Xuejing took the dagger. As soon as the dagger entered her hand suddenly sank. If it wasn't for her quick reaction, the dagger would have fallen out her hand. She looked at the dagger in her hand. The dagger was about 1 foot and 2 inches long. The hilt was 5 inches long, and the guard was not inlaid with any gems. The whole dagger and the sheath were dark red. There was no dazzling light. But what was strange was that this dagger was 10 times heavier than other daggers of the same type. It was heavy in her hand. If she didn't use Do Qi, it would be difficult for her to control it. Although she felt that the dagger was not ordinary, Xuejing still put on a look of disdain and said, "You want to fool me with this kind of broken dagger? You're too stingy." Garamandes stared at her with wide eyes. "I'm stingy? Miss, do you know what kind of dagger this is?" You have the strength of a great swordsman. With this dagger, your strength will increase by at least 1 level. You've seen Nian Bing's Xinjiang saber, right? Aside from the fact that this dagger can't support magic, its quality is not inferior to that Xinjiang saber. You can use the dagger. Why don't you take the dagger out and see? The part of his sentence that attracted Xu Weijing the most was undoubtedly the part about increasing her strength by 1 level. Although Xu Weijing didn't believe it in her heart, her curiosity drove her to draw the dagger out of the sheath. In an instant, the originally inconspicuous short sword suddenly changed. The 8 inches long blade actually burst out with a red light that was 3 meters long. That was not the light that was produced by the secret release of Do Qi, but the light that came from the sword itself. The red light did not dissipate and formed a long rainbow. Xu Weijing lightly pushed her wrist, and a curtain of light appeared in the air. The red light swept across, and the fake mountain rock was silently split in half. Within the red light, the 8-inch long blade was also dark red. In the center of the dagger, there was a blood-like light flowing through it. When the dagger was swung, there was a light red hum that was extremely pleasing to the ear. In just an instant, Xu Weijing discovered that she had fallen in love with this dagger. Xueji, who was standing at the side, sucked in a breath of cold air. He could clearly feel that as a weapon, the dagger's power was even greater than the proud heaven saber that he had given to Nian Bing. The reason why he had chosen to give the proud heaven saber to Nian Bing was because, 1, he wanted a rope in Nian Bing. The other reason was because the wind attribute of the proud heaven saber was more inclined toward support magic. The Shui family had always cultivated fire attribute Do Qi. It would not be able to increase their attack power by much. However, this dagger was different. When the dagger was unsheathed, the surging fire attribute energy carried with it an extremely hot aura. The fake mountain rock that had been cut in half by Xu Weijing had already turned black. That was just the light that came from the dagger. Giving away such a godly dagger so casually, it was too precious. Xu Weijing was already smiling. She was different from normal girls. Normal girls naturally liked jewelry, but she, who had been practicing martial arts since she was young, was especially fond of swords. Seeing such a godly dagger, her dissatisfaction with Garamandes immediately disappeared. She excitedly said, "Good. Long, why didn't you take out such a good thing before?" Garamandes bitterly smiled and said, "I'm innocent. I had already prepared the most suitable dagger for you, but you didn't give me the chance." As one of the 7 Dragon Kings, he was the wealthiest of the Dragon Kings. This dagger could be said to be a godly weapon on the continent of Yangon, or even on the continent of gods. Xueji said, "Mr. Long, this dagger is too precious. We cannot accept it. Please take it back." Jing returned the dagger to Mr. Long. Xu Weijing was dissatisfied and said, "Look at how he gave it away so casually. He must be very rich. Anyway, this is a gift for apprenticeship. There is no reason to return it. Master, Xu Weijing salutes you." As she said that, she slightly nodded to Garamandes. Garamandes bitterly smiled and said, "Song, you are the only apprentice I have. If I had a few more, I would go bankrupt. Mr. Shui, you don't have to be polite. Since I have already given it away, I will definitely not take it back. Moreover, Xu Weijing's current strength is still relatively average. With this dagger, it should not be a problem for her to protect herself. It's just that this dagger is a bit powerful. You have to be careful when using it. The name of the dagger is Flaming Moon." Xu Weijing smiled and said, "It's good to have a powerful dagger. I like powerful daggers. If I don't like you in the future, I will chop you with this dagger. This time, you won't be able to block it." As she said that, she waved the dagger in her hand at Garamandes. Of course, she didn't really want to chop Garamandes. It was just a joke. But who knew that Garamandes slightly smiled and said, "You can chop me. If you can hurt me with this dagger, would I still be worthy of being your master?" Since he wanted to hold back and win Xu Weijing's heart, he had to listen to Nian Bing and show some of his strength. Xu Weijing was stunned for a moment. She said somewhat uncertainly, "You really want me to chop you?" Garamandes slightly smiled. With his hands behind his back, he said, "Please." Seeing Garamandes' extremely confident appearance, Shuejing gave a dissatisfied snort. She waved the dagger in her hand and chopped at Garamandes. Before extreme snow could stop her, the red light had already swept past Garamandes. However, Garamandes did not even move. Seeing the surprised Shuejing, Garamandes was even more satisfied with her. She looked very fierce on the surface, but she was actually very kind. "No need to be polite. Chop me. You won't be able to hurt me." Shuejing bit her lower lip and said, "All right, you said it." With a flick of her wrist, she swung the dagger again. This time, it was not a threat. The dagger brought out a long rainbow that went straight for Garamandes' left shoulder. Garamandes did not move, nor did he dodge. He allowed the rainbow light to fall on his body. A similar layer of red light rose from his body. When the light from the dagger came into contact with the rainbow light on his body, it actually disappeared. Not only did it not cause any damage, it did not even leave a mark. Shuejing said in shock, What kind of trick is this?" Garamandes helplessly said, "Miss Shuejing, I have never used any tricks before. If your Do-Chi can be cultivated to my level, you will naturally understand the mystery behind it. Look." As he said this, he pointed to the sky. Shuejing looked up. She saw an unknown bird flying across the sky 100 zhang away. Just as she was feeling a bit confused, a red light shot out from Garamandes' hand, and in the blink of an eye, it passed through the bird's neck. The bird immediately fell. Garamandes casually waved his hand, and the bird's corpse suddenly accelerated and fell directly into his hand. "This is also a trick." Garamandes casually threw the dead bird on the ground. "If this is all a trick, then you should call someone who can use it to try. Do-Chi itself is a profound knowledge. When practiced to the extreme, there's almost nothing that cannot be done. On the surface, Do-Chi and magic are two completely different kinds of energy. However, when it comes to the strongest, there is not much difference between them. Although you have been practicing since you were young, there are too many impurities in your body. Although your talent is not bad, your training method is not very good, and you are unable to fully develop your potential. Miss Shuejing, please do not doubt my sincerity. I sincerely want to teach you some self-defense knowledge. Indeed, I like you very much. Although I do not know that you do not like me, I do not wish for the person I like to be hurt. If I am willing, I will do my best to increase your strength. Think about it carefully. If you really find me annoying, I will not force you to practice with me." With that, he bid farewell to Polar Snow and turned to leave. Looking at the tall figure of Garamandes leaving, and then looking at the short sword in her hand that was emitting light, a strange feeling suddenly rose in Shuejing's heart. Did he teach her the martial arts so that she could have the ability to protect herself? Was there no other purpose? "Father, can you do that ability just now?" she asked Polar Snow, who was beside her. Polar Snow was also shocked by Garamandes' strength. He shook his head and said, "Without using any weapons, using only Do-Chi to kill a target hundreds of meters away, let alone me, even your uncle cannot do that. This Long Hua is too strong. No wonder you said that he could defeat swordsmen. I think his strength has already surpassed swordsman's realm." Shuejing's beautiful eyes widened. You mean he has already reached the legendary Divine Master realm? But he does not look that old. Polar Snow smiled bitterly. "I do not know about that. But when he killed the bird just now, his body emitted a formless aura that made it difficult for me to breathe. It seems that Nianbing was right. As long as he is in our clear wind study, no matter what trouble it is, it will not be trouble. Divine Master, could he really be a Divine Master?" Nianbing returned to the clear wind study in the evening. As soon as she entered, she was led to a large private room by a waiter. Polar Snow, Shuejing, and Garamandes were already waiting for her in the private room. Shueji roared with laughter when he saw Nianbing. "Nianbing, I have good news to tell you. Today, Jing will officially become Mr. Long's disciple. Tonight's dinner will be the ceremony." Nianbing had already expected this result. What level of strength did Garamandes have? Shuejing and Polar Snow were just ordinary humans after all. It was not difficult for him to intimidate them. Then I will congratulate you in advance. Shu Edging, since you have become Big Brother's disciple, shouldn't you call me Martial Uncle in the future? Uncle your head, let's talk about our own matters. Moreover, my master has already promised me that I do not need to call him master in the future. I can just call him by his name. Isn't that right, master? Garamandes quickly nodded. That's right. Calling him master is too formal. Just call him by his name. Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, Shu Edging, you have to cultivate well with my big brother from now on. It's all thanks to my big brother's help that I am where I am today. Actually, my big brother can be considered half a master to me. It's a pity that I do not cultivate battle chi. Otherwise, you would not have a chance to become the first disciple. Thinking back to how Garamandes had helped him increase his strength, he could not help but look at Garamandes with a strange gaze. Garamandes naturally understood what Nian Bing was thinking. He chuckled. Shu Edging is a girl. Naturally, I do not need a teacher like you do. I have another way. Nian Bing said unhappily. How unfair. Shu Edging asked curiously. How is it unfair? Lama, what method did you use to teach Nian Bing? Don't worry, I can bear whatever he can bear. Nian Bing said mischievously. That's good. Big Brother Long, you must treat everyone equally. Garamandes glared at him unhappily. Treat everyone equally, my ass. Let's eat, let's eat. Shu Edging's curiosity was piqued. It was not so easy to take it back. She immediately pestered Garamandes, insisting that he tell her how he taught Nian Bing. Garamandes was helpless against her pestering. He could only tell her the process of how he taught Nian Bing. Shu Edging could not help but shudder. I did not expect you to be so bad. Don't tell me you are also planning to teach me like that. Shu Edging asked probingly. Now, she had already acknowledged Garamandes' strength. She also had a good reason to become his disciple. Her previous grudges had naturally disappeared. An expert who could possibly be a divine sage. No matter what he did, no one could stop him. Garamandes smiled. Didn't I just say that the method I taught you is different from his? He is a magician and needs to strengthen his body. You are a warrior and your body is already in good condition. What you need is only to get rid of the impurities. As for getting rid of the impurities, although the method I taught Nian Bing can also be used, but I was afraid that you would not be able to take it, so I chose another method. Nian Bing glared at Garamandes, as if to say that he valued love over friendship. Garamandes pretended not to see and looked at Shu Edging with a smile. Shueji said, Nian Bing, I have not eaten your cooking for a long time. When you come back from Ice Moon City this time, you must show me your skills and let me have a good meal. Nian Bing smiled and said, That's only right. But I have not cooked for a while, so my hands are a little rusty. At this moment, a waiter walked in from outside and whispered in Shueji's ear, The fifth prince is here and wants to see Mississippi owner. What do you think? Although his voice was low, it could not escape the ears of Nian Bing and Garamandes. The two of them were furious and looked at each other. Garamandes stood up. I will go. Although his expression was calm, Nian Bing could see the anger in his heart. Ever since he told him yesterday that Yin Yun was interested in Long Ling and Shu Edging, Garamandes had been extremely dissatisfied with him. Seeing Garamandes walk out slowly, Nian Bing did not stop him. Shueji looked at him questioningly. Nian Bing smiled. Just pretend that you do not know anything. Let Brother Long take care of everything. He knows what he is doing. Although he said that he had already activated the power of his Tian Yin acupoint and followed Garamandes to look at the situation outside. Yin had brought two people with him. One of them was the blue-clothed elder that Nian Bing had seen before, while the other was a gray-clothed elder. It was obvious that Yin Yun had increased the number of guards after the previous incident. Garamandes came to the hall and directly walked to Yin Yun's table and sat down. The two elders behind Yin Yun wanted to stop him, but were stopped by Yin Yun, so it is Brother Long. Where is Miss Shu Edging? Garamandes said indifferently. She has something to do and cannot come out. Why are you looking for her? Yin Yun frowned slightly. He was in a bad mood because he had suffered a great loss at the hands of Nian Bing. However, Longji had already come to apologize to him and agreed to his marriage with Long Ling and fully support him in ascending to the throne. At the same time, Longji also said that he would wait until he became the king of the Ice Moon Empire before he could officially marry Long Ling. Yin Yun did not care about this. To him, he could have as many women as he wanted. Although Long Ling and Xu Ejing were both stunning beauties, he was more interested in the Magic Casters Guild and the power behind Xu Ejing. Since Long Ji had already agreed to support him, he did not make things difficult for him. However, he had a deep impression of Nianbing. If it was in the past, he would have already thought of ways to take revenge. However, it was more important to gain the support of various powers now. Therefore, he temporarily put the resentment in his heart aside. Brother Long, I'm looking for Miss Xu Ejing for some personal matters. Why? Have you not eaten today? What do you want to eat? I will treat you. There's no need to treat me. I came out to tell you that from today onwards, don't look for Xu Ejing anymore. She has already acknowledged me as her master and is going to devote herself to cultivation. Yin Yun looked at Garamandes in shock. His eyes flashed continuously. Oh, I see. Then I would like to congratulate Brother Long and Miss Xu Ejing. However, I do have something important to discuss with Miss Xu Ejing. Can you ask her to come out and meet me? Garamandes reached out a hand and grabbed at Yin Yun in an extremely slow motion. The two elders behind Yin Yun flashed out at the same time, and each reached out a hand to block his hand. Garamandes snorted in disdain. The golden light in his hand shone brightly. With a dull sound, the two elders were pushed back, and his hand grabbed Yin Yun's neck. Yin Yun was shocked once again. He clearly saw Garamandes slowly reaching out his hand, but for some reason, he was unable to dodge. He could only allow himself to be grabbed by Garamandes. I don't like to repeat myself. You are not welcome in my sect, and neither is Xu Ejing. Leave immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Not to mention you. Even if it was your father, it wouldn't be difficult for me to kill him. If you're not afraid of death, feel free to come again. The golden light flashed again, and Yin Yun and the other two were sent out of the cool breeze abode. The two elders who came with Yin Yun exclaimed in a low voice, "God's battle chi." Yin Yun looked at them in shock. Are you sure that was God's battle chi? God tier was a supreme existence in the hearts of all cultivators. If Garamandes was really a God tier master, then everything he said was not just a simple threat. The two elders nodded at the same time. The elder in blue said, "That's right, that was definitely God's battle chi. Otherwise, we would have been able to resist it all. The difference between Saint's battle chi and God's battle chi is insurmountable. Your Highness, you must not provoke this person in the future. Otherwise, unless the Ice Goddess priests personally come, no one will be able to deal with him." Yin Yun snorted hatefully. He didn't think that his plan would be so unsuccessful. First, there was the strange Nian Bing, and now there was a legendary God tier master. His original plan was completely ruined. However, in this world, strength was everything. Not to mention that he couldn't use force against the cool breeze abode. Even if he could, how many people would it take to contend against a God tier master? It seemed that it was impossible to obtain the Snow Clan support. Yin Yun was a flexible person. After confirming that he couldn't do anything, he immediately left with his two guards. Chapter 138. Garamandes returned to the dining table in the private room. He looked at Xueji, who was a little worried, and said, "It's settled. He won't bother Xuejing again. Let's continue eating." Nianbing gave Garamandes a thumbs up. Yin Yun dared to steal a woman from the Fire Dragon King. He must be tired of living. Luckily, Garamandes couldn't kill people. Otherwise, he would have become a corpse. Strength was the foundation of speech. No matter when and where it was, this was an unchanging truth throughout the ages. The next morning, Nianbing said goodbye to everyone and left Ice City quietly. Garamandes was here, so he didn't have to worry. Now, he had to work hard for his and Long Ling's future. The two green-level warriors from the Bloodlion cult followed him. They were still far behind Nianbing, waiting for his orders. Traveling alone, Nianbing wasn't in a hurry. He didn't fly. Instead, he walked and stopped, fully immersing himself in his magic cultivation. The reason why he wasn't in a hurry was because he knew that the Bloodlion cult needed time to dispatch people. Dispatching experts from various empires to Ice Moon City wasn't something that could be done in a day or two. He arrived at Ice Moon City first to find Yin Feng and communicate with him. The weather in the Ice Moon Empire was obviously colder than other empires. The further north he went, the stronger the feeling became. When he passed by the Peach Blossom Forest, Nian Bing didn't go back. He was afraid that he would remember everything that happened between him and Cha Ji. He only felt grateful to this teacher who taught him how to cook. He had already decided that he would go back to the Peach Blossom Forest to pay tribute to Cha Ji after he became the champion of the God of Cookery tournament. The road was wide, and the trees on both sides were mostly coniferous plants. The gradually cold air didn't affect Nian Bing. As he walked, he stopped breathing. His walking speed was always maintained at a strange rhythm. He discovered that through the combination of Xiantian Qi and his own magic power, this kind of walking was also a kind of cultivation method. Although the speed of gathering magic power was not as fast as sitting cross-legged in meditation, it was still very fast. But it wasn't too far off. Right now, Nian Bing's greatest desire was to increase his magical power. As he walked, he waited. He was waiting for someone to arrive. 2 days later, Nian Bing, who was walking slowly, suddenly stopped. In 2 days, he had only walked 100 miles. There was still a long way to go before he reached Ice City. Miss Bingyun, you're really patient. But what's the use of following me like this? Are you waiting for your Ice God Tower's reinforcements? Nian Bing said calmly. A white figure floated down, and the surrounding air became even colder. It was none other than the Thousand Illusion Ice Cloud. Nian's insults to her. That could only be washed. Nian's humiliation. So, Nian Bing. B. The humiliation. Her humiliation. Nian's humiliated her. Her T. SBS. Beast. She followed her out. Nian Bing, if you have the ability, follow me back to the Ice God Tower. Don't you want to know where your parents are? Bing Yun. After a few days of thinking, she had regained her usual calmness. Nian Bing looked at Bing Yun, who was wearing a veil. He subconsciously thought of the beautiful face hidden behind the veil. He smiled and said, I must go to the Ice God Tower. But not now. If Miss Bing Yun is interested, you can follow me. I'm going to Ice City now. Once I'm done there, I'll go to the Ice God Tower. Bing Yun was stunned. She didn't expect Nian Bing to make such a request. She sneered and said, Aren't you afraid that I'll attack you at any time? Nian Bing smiled. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of my life. However, to have such a beautiful Miss Bing Yun by my side is indeed an exciting journey. You and I both understand that the current you is no longer my opponent. Since you want to keep an eye on me, then follow me on the journey. Don't worry, before we reach Ice City, I won't do anything to you. I think that your Ice God Tower's influence in Ice City should be very strong. When the time comes, you can bring experts to capture me. I'll be waiting for you. How about it? Miss Bing Yun, are you interested in going with me? Bing Yun looked coldly at Nian Bing. She couldn't figure out what Nian Bing was thinking. However, she was arrogant by nature. Since the opponent had made a request, how could she be afraid? Okay, I'll go with you to Ice City. Nian Bing said happily. Okay, since Miss Bing Yun is so straightforward, then I'll also promise you. As long as the matter in Ice City is settled, I'll go with you to the Ice God Tower to see the world. Looking up at the sky, Nian Bing smiled and said, It's getting late. Let's rest for a while. These few days, Miss Bing Yun has been nervously following me. I don't think it's good for your magic practice. As he spoke, he didn't ask for Bing Yun's opinion. He walked to a big tree by the roadside and pretended to lie down. He lifted the golden cloak on his head, revealing a head of white hair. Before leaving Ice City, Li Hua had rushed to make 10 golden magic robes and gave them to Nian Bing. He no longer wore coarse clothes. Although these golden magic robes weren't of much help in casting magic, they were still eye-catching when walking on the road. Bing Yun walked to a distance of 30 feet away from Nian Bing and sat down. Before sitting down, she had already used magic to condense a piece of ice on the ground. Her gaze fell on Nian Bing's white hair, and her eyes revealed a trace of curiosity. Although she grew up in the Ice God Tower and cultivated a cold nature, she was still a girl who wasn't even 20 years old. How could she not be curious? Nian Bing didn't seem to notice Bing Yun's gaze and rubbed his stomach. I'm really hungry. Let's get something to eat first. As he spoke, he turned and walked into the forest. Frozen Cloud also stood up and followed him into the forest not far behind. As they walked forward, they almost simultaneously saw a thick smoke rising from the forest. A faint smell of smoke came. There was also a clear, fishy smell. Nian Bing's heart skipped a beat. A trace of a smile appeared on his face, and he strode in the direction of the thick smoke. From afar, Nian Bing could already see a person grumbling as he sat there. Annoying, really annoying. Why does the food I roast taste so bad? If only Brother Nian Bing was here. The taste of his roast meat is much better than mine. Then, look at what you've summoned with your urine. The meat is so bad. It's so hard. How can I eat it? A fiery red fox sat at the side and looked at its master with innocent eyes. Seeing them, Nian Bing couldn't help but reveal a knowing smile. He quickened his pace and walked over. The fox's reaction was very fast. It immediately looked at Nian Bing with vigilance. At the same time, it took a few steps back and hid beside its master. Only the fox's head was revealed. Looking at its wretched appearance, Nian Bing couldn't help but laugh. Following Miss Kitty's summons, Nian Bing is here. Wind magic. In a flash, he had already arrived beside the fox's master. The person roasting alone was clearly Hillard's daughter, Kitty. Kitty raised her head and looked at Nian Bing in disbelief. She stood up and tiptoed to pinch Nian Bing's face. Wow, I'm not dreaming, right? When did my summoning skills improve to this level? I can actually summon Brother Nian Bing. Nian Bing rubbed Kitty's head lovingly. Yes, Brother Nian Bing knows that you want to eat roasted meat, so you summoned him here to serve our cute kitty. Bing Yin had also walked over. Seeing the beautiful and cute kitty, she couldn't help but reveal a trace of surprise. The light in her eyes also became much gentler. Kitty looked at Bing Yin curiously. Brother Nian Bing, who is this big sister? Nian Bing smiled. She's my friend. We were resting on the side of the road when we happened to see smoke coming from your side. I also smelled the scent of your fox, so I guess it was you. The fox seemed to have grown a lot compared to before, especially its long, fiery red fur. Not only had it grown longer, but it also faintly emitted a faint golden color. Kitty pulled Nian Bing's big hand and said excitedly, "That's great, Brother Nian Bing. Kitty hasn't eaten anything good these days. You must roast meat for me." Nian Bing smiled and said, "We didn't sneak out to play again, did you? How's Uncle Hillard?" Kitty stuck out her little tongue and said, "Daddy is very good. However, he seems to have gone out to look for Uncle Caradiris. It seems that something happened to Uncle Caradiris. I just snuck out to play for a few days. After a few days, I'll go back by myself. Brother Nian Bing, you're not allowed to scold me." Nian Bing looked at her and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You little girl, I knew you snuck out again. Uncle Hillard is so worried about you." Kitty pursed her lips and said, "Daddy always forces me to practice magic at home. I'm so pitiful. I'm locked up every day. Now that I finally have a chance, of course I'll run out to play. Brother Nian Bing, I'm so hungry. Can you make something delicious for me first? Then Kitty will follow you. When we find a big city, we'll rent a carriage and go home. I can't find my way now." Nian Bing really didn't know what to do with her. He said helplessly, Okay. Let me see what you caught." As he said that, he looked at the meat that Kitty had thrown on the ground. It was no longer ordinary meat, but a black lump. The fire next to it had been extinguished, and the ground was covered with white fur. It seemed that Kitty had spent a lot of effort to eat this. "You greedy little kitten, your culinary skills are too lousy. From the looks of its feathers, you should have caught a snow pheasant unique to the Ice Moon Empire. Snow chicken is fresh and tender, and tastes much better than ordinary chicken. It's also a good choice for roasting. How did you end up roasting it like this?" Kitty giggled and said, "I was afraid that I wouldn't get a stomachache if I didn't roast it properly, so I roasted it for a while. Who knew it would turn out like this? Brother Nian Bing, does that mean this snow chicken should be delicious?" Nian Bing nodded and said, "Is the power of your fox's urine still there? If it's still useful, we'll wait for a while and catch another snow chicken for you to eat." Kitty clapped her hands excitedly and said, "Okay." Okay, that had already evolved to the second stage. Its urine could last for a very long time. However, this Ice Moon Empire was really very poor. There were very few wild beasts. In such a dense forest, I only managed to catch a snow pheasant after half a day. Brother Nian Bing, then let's wait for a while. I want to eat your roasted meat the most. The deer you roasted last time was so delicious, but I didn't get to eat it because of little stutterer. This time, I'll have a good meal. Looking at Kitty's longing eyes, Nian Bing said, "It's not winter yet. There should be a lot of animals in such a dense forest. How can it be so barren?" As he said that, he slowly closed his eyes and stopped breathing. With the help of the Tian Yin acupoint, he felt the aura around him through the innate qi. The innate qi was extremely sensitive to any kind of energy. Ever since he had the innate qi, Nianbing no longer had to worry about his body not being able to withstand the impact of magic power. With the help of the innate qi, his magic power was changing slightly, especially the ability to automatically absorb the magic elements in the air, which was very useful to him. The one who liked Nianbing's innate qi the most was Oscar. Oscar was just born not long ago, and although he evolved under the cooperation of the 7 Dragon Kings, the innate qi was still very nourishing to him. Under the nourishment of Nianbing's innate qi, his cultivation speed was very fast, and that gray aura became more and more solid. The Khanate qi was connected to the heavens and earth, so he could fully sense the natural Khanate qi. Suddenly, Nianbing was shocked because he discovered to his surprise that the Khanate qi in this land wasn't as strong as he had imagined. There were so many plants here, so logically speaking, the Khanate qi should be abundant. However, upon closer inspection, the Khanate qi wasn't very strong. Although it didn't affect the growth of the plants, it was very strange. Just as Nianbing was thinking about what was going on, suddenly, an extremely strong airflow came from the ground and approached them. Shocked, Nianbing remembered that the fox used his magical urine to summon a golden-backed dragon king. His heart couldn't help but tighten, and he didn't dare to be negligent. He hugged Kitty beside him and shouted, "Be careful, let's go." Under the effect of wind magic, they rose to the sky in the blink of an eye. The fox's reaction was very fast, and as soon as Nianbing hugged Kitty, it had already jumped onto Kitty's shoulder. When Xinhuan Bingyun heard Nianbing shout, she immediately tore open the blizzard scroll that she carried with her the most, and rose to the sky almost at the same time as Nianbing. At this time, she and Nianbing looked down at the ground. "What the hell are you doing?" Bingyun looked at the still calm ground, puzzled. She didn't feel any change. Nianbing stared at the ground and said in a deep voice, "I don't know what is underground, but this thing can absorb innate qi. There are so few animals in this forest. I'm afraid it has something to do with it." As soon as his voice fell, there was a loud bang, and a tall cedar tree was blown up into the sky. A huge head drilled out of the ground, shaking its head and letting out a deafening roar. The gigantic head appeared to be round and had a diameter of 5 feet. It looked like the head of a gigantic rat, and its entire body was covered in short, grayish-black fur. It was especially clear in the forest, and its mouth was filled with sharp teeth that were 3 feet long. A layer of black aura continued to spread into the surroundings, and wherever it passed, the trees would wither. A pair of dark red eyes stared at Nianbing and the other two in the air. Kitty exclaimed, "Good, good. This is the dark demon rat. Looking at it, it has probably evolved to level 5. It's so big, how scary." Nianbing was stunned. How could he be more familiar with these special magical beasts than Kitty, who had been practicing summoning since she was young? He couldn't help but ask, "What is this dark demon? Why is it so big? Your fox is really powerful. He has leveled up, and the monsters he attracts have also leveled up." Nianbing secretly decided that he wouldn't use the fox to attract food in the wild in the future. At this time, with the constant shaking of the ground, the dark demon rat was constantly emerging from the ground. Every time its huge body shook, it would bring up a clump of soil, and the black aura on its body became stronger. Its huge body was like a small mountain, and it was not smaller than the Dragon King's real body at all. Kitty said. The dark demon rat is a very rare dark magical beast. They usually live underground, and they hunt all kinds of small animals and absorb spiritual chi to strengthen themselves. The biggest characteristic of the dark demon rat is its ability to evolve. Generally speaking, ordinary magical beasts can only grow and become fixed after they grow up. But a magical beast like the dark demon rat can evolve continuously. As long as it absorbs enough energy, it can evolve again and again. A few of my little pets, for example, are of this type. Oh, right, my big mouse Tian is also a dark demon rat, but it's only level 2 now. It's not as powerful as the one below. Back then, Dad spent a lot of effort to bring Tian back to me. I think he caught it in the Ice Moon Empire. Could it be this big mouse's child? The dark demon rat can only give birth once in its life. It's very pitiful. Brother Nianbing, let's go. Don't hurt it, okay? Nianbing looked at Kitty with a smile and said, What's wrong? Don't you want to eat barbecue? But I have a question. Since the dark demon rat is a dark magical beast, why don't I feel the dark aura of your mouse? It seems that it only has the ability to charge and rely on the hardness of its body. Nianbing was very interested in the powerful magical beast below. He believed that after opening the Tianyan acupoint, his spiritual power was no worse than that of a white man. If he could learn the white man's summoning skills and get a few powerful magical beasts by his side, what a wonderful thing it would be. Kitty naturally didn't know what Nianbing was thinking. She explained, the dark element of the dark demon rat will gradually appear after it evolves to level 3. So Tian can't do it now. Brother, I want to eat barbecue, but I don't want to eat magical beasts. This dark demon rat is obviously above level 5. We may not be able to defeat it. Even if we can, its meat won't be delicious. Nianbing, brother, this level of dark demon rat is even stronger than my golden North Dragon King, which hasn't fully matured yet. Be careful, it's attacking us. Nianbing's heart skipped a beat. He didn't even need to look. He could clearly feel the air flow rising from below. He moved horizontally toward Nianbing like lightning and activated the Tianyan field. The dark aura weakened by itself, and at the same time, it translated the light aura. The 7 shadow puppets were scattered in the air, each holding a divine sword, waiting for Nianbing's order to attack. The dark demon rat's attack was very simple. It opened its mouth and spat out a black air flow, which swept toward the 3 people in the air. It was so big and had no wings, so it obviously couldn't fly. Its dark red eyes kept flashing with a fierce light. Just when Nianbing was thinking about whether he should listen to Kitty and leave immediately or kill the dark demon rat, something strange happened. The shadow puppet floating in the air didn't receive Nianbing's order, but it moved. A black light flashed, and it directly entered the dark air flow that the dark demon rat spat out. The demon-devouring blade shone brightly, and a huge dark aura surrounded the energy that the dark demon rat spat out. It was quickly devouring it, and the energy that the dark demon rat spat out became stronger. The black gem on the demon-devouring blade shone brightly, and the entire shadow puppet seemed to become solid, slowly pressing down on the ground. The dark demon rat's huge red eyes were filled with fear. It stepped back step by step, but it couldn't stop spitting out energy. It could only let the shadow puppet continue to devour it. The shadow puppet's eyes lit up, and its blood-red eyes shone with a cold light. It raised the demon-devouring blade high and pointed the handle at the dark demon rat. A black light net floated down, and the net kept expanding in the air, covering the dark demon rat's body. The dark demon rat struggled violently in fear, but no matter how hard it struggled, it couldn't escape from the dark net. Nianbing was startled. He hurried to control his shadow puppet with his spiritual power, but he found that the shadow puppet was no longer under his control. All of its actions were autonomous. Cold sweat trickled down Nianbing's back as a strange thought suddenly surfaced in his mind. Could it be that this shadow puppet of his had intelligence? That was impossible. It was clearly formed by his own energy. Kitty shouted, "Brother, what are you doing? What is that shadow doing? Stop it! Stop it!" However, it was too late to say anything now. As soon as the black web ended, the dark demon rat let out a sorrowful cry, and its body shrunk. The dark demon puppet pointed its demon-devouring blade at the dark demon rat, and the dark demon rat spun on the spot. Its huge body was sucked into the air, and the closer it got to the dark demon puppet, the smaller its body became. In the end, it turned into a dark aura that revolved around the dark demon rat's body. Its red eyes dimmed again. Nian Bing used his spiritual power to communicate with the dark demon puppet again and regained control over it. A strange feeling came into Nian Bing's spiritual power. He clearly felt that the dark demon rat was inside the gem on the handle of the demon-devouring blade. The shadow puppet's energy had increased tremendously, and it had surpassed all of the other puppets. "Brother Nian Bing, what did you do? What a pitiful rat. Did you kill it?" Kitty looked at the black figure in the air nervously. Nian Bing smiled bitterly. "I don't know. These puppets were formed by my energy. Logically speaking, it should have been completely under my control, but at that moment I lost control of it. Everything was done by it on its own. However, the dark demon rat shouldn't be dead. It seems to be sealed in my demon-devouring blade like your summoning technique." Ever since he had obtained the demon-devouring blade, Nian Bing had carefully studied it. However, he hadn't been able to find anything useful. He couldn't help but feel a little lost now that the shadow puppet with the demon-devouring blade as its core had suddenly undergone such a change. The three of them landed on the ground again. Nian Bing withdrew the other 6 puppets. Only the shadow puppet, which was almost solid because of its energy, was left. Feeling the powerful aura released by it, Nian Bing felt a little uneasy. Now that it was no longer under his control, if he let it absorb the energy of other dark creatures, would it completely break free from his control? No, that shouldn't be the case. The demon-devouring blade had already recognized him and condensed with his blood. He and the blade had already formed a soul connection, so it couldn't betray him. But how could he explain what just happened? Nian Bing couldn't figure it out. Qianhuan Bingyan looked at him with a different gaze. Nian Bing's mysterious energy made her feel discouraged. She had always thought that she was one of the best among the younger generation of mages. She was extremely indignant when she lost to Nian Bing in the arena back then. However, the truth was right in front of her now. Nian Bing was much stronger than her, especially that strange innate domain. It seemed to be even more powerful than her own snow goddess domain. It even had the ability to restrain her domain. Nian Bing controlled the shadow puppet to make a few moves, and the shadow puppet immediately followed his will. There seemed to be nothing wrong with it. His spiritual power merged with the demon-devouring blade. Nian Bing's eyes flashed, and he said softly, "Release." Black air flowed out from the handle of the demon-devouring blade, and the previous huge figure suddenly appeared not far in front of Nian Bing and the shadow puppet. The shadow puppet didn't lose control, and the released dark demon rat was very docile. It lay on the ground motionlessly, blinking its huge eyes at Nian Bing, as if waiting for orders. Nian Bing's heart moved, and he said to the dark demon rat through his spiritual power, "Go and catch a few snow chickens." He wanted to see if he could control the huge rat that was taken back by the shadow puppet. It turned out that his experiment was a success. After receiving Nian Bing's order, the dark demon rat stood up without hesitation, turned around, and crawled into the big hole it came out from. Its huge body disappeared with a series of friction sounds. The shadow puppet continued to stand there calmly, as if everything had nothing to do with it. Nian Bing's mind kept going through various thoughts, but he just couldn't figure out what state the shadow puppet was in right now. If it had its own intelligence, then why was he able to control it with his spiritual power? And he couldn't find any trace of intelligence. The demon-devouring blade was still the same as usual. Whether it was the jewels on the handle or the blade, there weren't many changes except that it was full of dark aura. Demon-devouring blade. Oh, demon-devouring blade, what secrets do you have? Although Nian Bing still couldn't figure out what had happened, he faintly felt that the changes in the shadow puppet formed by the demon-devouring blade must have something to do with the dead Emperor Kurobutsu. Kitty looked at Nian Bing in surprise and said, "Brother Nian Bing, why did the big rat come back? Why did it run away?" Nian Bing smiled bitterly and said, If I'm not wrong, this dark demon rat is probably under my control. My 7 blades are very strange, and each of them has a special origin. I don't know why it's like this. Maybe it's because the dark demon rat belongs to the dark attribute. Or maybe it's because my demon-devouring blade is too spiritual, and it sensed the aura of the dark demon rat, so it took it back. After a while, the huge body of the dark demon rat drilled out of the ground with 3 still alive snow chickens in its mouth. It brought them to Nian Bing and lay on the ground meekly again. Nian Bing suddenly thought that the dark demon rat was so good at burrowing underground. If he made good use of this advantage. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but smile evilly. His spiritual power passed into the demon-devouring blade and took the dark demon rat back. At the same time, he took back the shadow puppet. Although he still had some doubts about the demon-devouring blade, Nian Bing couldn't help but feel happy when he thought of the role of the dark demon rat. Without Kitty's urging, he had already taken action. The 3 snow chickens were quickly cleaned under the effect of ice magic. He found a few branches, removed the leaves and bark on them, and put the 3 snow chickens on a rack. Bing went to the side of a tree and sat down. He didn't even look at Nian Bing and closed his eyes to meditate. Kitty's spiritual power was all on the 3 snow chickens, and Fox was drooling and crying. Nian Bing smiled and put the 3 snow chickens on the rack. The progress of magic made it easier for him to control the fire. He brushed the seasoning evenly on the snow chickens and began to roast them. After a while, a strong aroma filled the air, and the skin of the snow chickens gradually turned brown. The meat of the snow chickens was tender and plump, and roasting them was one of the best cooking methods. As the strong aroma continued to spread, Kitty was anxiously jumping on the side, waiting for the snow chickens to be done. While roasting the snow chickens, Nian Bing stole a glance at Bing Yun, who was not far away. Bing Yun still sat there calmly and meditated, as if she didn't smell the aroma. Nian Bing had to admit that Bing Yun was definitely one of the most beautiful women he had ever seen. Only Feng knew could be compared with her, but she was the disciple of his enemy. The snow pheasants were finally done. Nian Bing handed one of them to Kitty, who couldn't wait any longer. Kitty received the snow pheasant and immediately ran over to Frozen Cloud in high spirits. Sister, the pheasants are done. You should eat some too." Then she handed the snow chicken to Bing Yun. Bing Yun opened her eyes and looked at the innocent Kitty. She showed a rare smile, took off the veil on her face, and said softly, "Little sister, you can eat by yourself. I won't eat his food." She didn't know why, but when she looked at Kitty, the coldness in her body disappeared automatically, and she couldn't keep a straight face. Chapter 139. Kitty looked at Bing Yun in surprise and said, "Sister, Nian Bing's cooking is very delicious. Try it. Don't call me little sister. I'm already 16 years old. Just call me Kitty. That's what everyone calls me." As she said this, she handed the snow chicken to Bing Yun again. Bing Yun froze for a moment. Looking at Kitty's innocent face, she really couldn't bear to refuse. Besides, the smell of the snow chicken really didn't smell good. She immediately reached out to take the branch, tore off a chicken leg from it, and returned the branch to Kitty. "You eat it. This is enough for sister." Kitty giggled, then began to eat to her heart's content. Relying on the craftsmanship of ice and fire 9 layered heavens, the snow pheasant brought out the best taste in Nian Bing's hands. Let alone Kitty, even Frozen Cloud, who had always been pure of heart and few desires, couldn't help but be moved after a few bites. The taste of the snow pheasant was a mixture of different flames. Every bite gave one a completely different feeling. Although the ice goddess priestess doted on her very much, the dishes of the ice god tower had always been mainly vegetables. Moreover, the cooking methods were very ordinary. Suddenly tasting something delicious, she couldn't help but carefully savor it. Compared to Kitty, who was wolfing down her food, she was much more refined. She ate small mouthfuls, and every movement was so beautiful, without a trace of grease on her face. Nian Bing ate the snow chicken by herself, while looking at Kitty and Bing Yun. A faint cold light flashed in her eyes. The 3 snow chickens were quickly finished. Nian Bing ate one herself, and Kitty ate more than one. Bing Yun, who had only planned to eat one chicken leg, also ate a lot under Kitty's enthusiasm. After tasting Nian Bing's craftsmanship, Bing Yun really couldn't understand why an excellent magician would put so much effort into cooking. To be able to make such delicious food, it was definitely not something that could be done in a day or two. Of course, she wouldn't ask Nian Bing about it. The pitiful fox could only pick up some chicken bones from the ground and eat them. It looked at its master with dissatisfaction. Unfortunately, Kitty did not seem to notice its pitiful appearance. "Kitty, we've finished our meal. Let's go. When we reach Ice Moon City, don't be naughty anymore. I'll find someone to send you home," Nian Bing said as she washed Kitty's face with water made from ice. Although she liked Kitty very much, however, he still had many important things to do in Ice Moon City. He was afraid that Kitty would be in danger if she followed him. Kitty washed off the grease on her face and said with some grievance, "Brother Nian Bing, do you hate Kitty? Kitty can protect herself. She won't be a burden to you. Let me follow you. It wasn't easy for me to make this trip out. Once Dad gets angry, I'll definitely catch her. He'll definitely arrest me again." Her eyes turned red as she spoke, and she looked at Nian Bing with a pitiful expression. Nian Bing shook her head helplessly and said, "Kitty, listen to me. Brother still has some things to deal with in Ice Moon City. It's not convenient for you to follow me. If something happens to you, how can I explain it to Uncle Hillard?" As soon as he said that, Bing Yun stood up and pulled Kitty's hand. "You don't have to worry about this. As long as I'm in Ice Moon City, no one can hurt her. Kitty, let's ignore this overcautious guy. Let's go." As she said that, she pulled Kitty's little hand and walked out. Nian Bing looked at Bing Yun with some surprise. She didn't seem to be as cold as she thought. She hurriedly quickened her pace and followed the 2 girls out of the forest. Along the way, Nian Bing and Bing Yun, who had an awkward atmosphere, got along peacefully with Kitty's mediation. Nian Bing became the 2 girls' personal chef. In the beginning, Bing Yun didn't want to eat the food he made. Later, she seemed to have gotten used to Nian Bing's delicious food. She didn't even need to be persuaded by Kitty. Her appetite was actually not smaller than Kitty's. There were a few times when Nian Bing made less food and she didn't even have to eat it herself. In a seemingly harmonious atmosphere, 5 days later, they finally arrived at the capital of the Ice Moon Empire, Ice Moon City, which was only 100 miles away from the Ice God Tower. Ice Moon City was not much more prosperous than Ice Moon City. However, because it was the capital of the Ice Moon Empire, the entire city was filled with a strong political atmosphere. Patrolling soldiers could often be seen on the streets, and there were very few hawkers on the streets. The first impression that this city gave people was naturally its good security. A handsome magician wearing a golden magician's robe, a cold woman with a veil covering her face, and a charming young girl attracted the attention of the civilians as soon as they entered Ice Moon City. However, Nian Bing and the other 2 didn't encounter any trouble. The reason was very simple. It was because of the ice flower symbol on Bing Yun's magician's robe. In the Ice Moon Empire, everyone knew that offending the royal family might not be a death sentence, but offending the Ice God Tower would definitely lead to a fate worse than death. As they walked, Bing Yun suddenly stopped pulling Kitty. She turned around and asked Nian Bing, "Where are you going?" Her voice was still very cold, although the hatred in her eyes had faded a little. Nian Bing smiled and said, "Let's find a place to stay first. Miss Bing Yun can also go find your Ice God Tower's helpers. You can rest assured that I won't run away. Besides, Kitty is here, isn't she?" As he spoke, he walked towards a large hotel by the roadside. A cold light flashed in Bing Yun's eyes. She pulled Kitty and followed Nian Bing into the hotel. With the identity of the Ice God Tower, the 3 of them stayed in the hotel for free. Nian Bing asked for 2 rooms, one for himself and one for Bing Yun and Kitty. He had just entered the room to rest for a while when Kitty ran over. "Nian Bing, Gidge, Bing Yun." Gidge said that she wants to take me to the city to play. "Are you coming? Come with us." Bing Yun. Gidge said that there are many delicious snack shops in the city. There are also all kinds of fur clothes that are specialties of the Ice Moon Empire. The weather is cold. My sister said that she would buy me some clothes to wear. Ice Moon City was north of Ice Snow City. It was now late autumn, so it was indeed a little cold. Looking at Kitty's happy appearance, Nian Bing shook his head and said, "You go with your sister, Bing Yin. Gidge is tired, so I won't go with you." What a joke. If he went shopping with a girl, he would definitely end up in a miserable state. Besides, he still had some important things to do. Kitty looked at Nian Bing with some dissatisfaction. "Gidge is such a killjoy. Then you wait here for us to come back. I will buy you some clothes to wear too." After saying that, she skipped out. Looking at her back, Nian Bing was really envious of the carefree Kitty. If only he could be as happy as her. But at least it was impossible for now. Under the observation of his spiritual power, he clearly felt that Bing Yun and Kitty had left the hotel and were heading north. Although he was filled with hatred for the people of the Ice God Tower, he hoped that they would be together for a long time. Along the way, Frozen Cloud had been extremely good to Kitty. He believed that Frozen Cloud wouldn't harm Kitty. Moreover, Kitty had a bunch of summoned beasts and spiritual magic. She definitely wasn't as harmless as she appeared. Opening the window, Nian Bing lightly clapped his hands 3 times. 2 gray shadows floated in from the window and knelt down on one knee. "Sect leader, what are your orders?" Nian Bing said indifferently. "Take me to the entrance of the Ice Moon Hall. I want to." The people who should come should have already arrived. It had been 10 days since the order was issued. If they traveled day and night, at least some of the bloodline experts should have already gathered in Ice Snow City. The 2 green level experts took Nian Bing out of the hotel. They were obviously very familiar with the roads of Ice Moon City. They took Nian Bing through the streets and alleys and soon arrived in front of a tall building. Arriving at this building, Nian Bing could not help but be stunned, because the symbol on the building was a sword. This represented the Warrior Union, and the Warrior Union of Ice Moon City was obviously the headquarters of the Warrior Union of the entire Ice Moon Empire. The Bloodlion Sect's Ice Moon Hall was actually here? With some doubts, he followed the 2 green-level experts and walked into the Warrior Union. There were many people in the Warrior Union, and many of them were here to level up their martial arts. The Warrior Union Hall was thousands of square meters, and hundreds of warriors did not seem very crowded. As soon as Nian Bing, who was wearing a golden magic robe, entered the Warrior Union, he immediately attracted the attention of the warriors. His magician's half-price was too conspicuous. One of the 2 green-level warriors stayed by Nian Bing's side, and the other quickly walked inside the Warrior Union. Nian Bing stood in the center of the Warrior Union and observed the surrounding environment. At least 2/3 of the warriors in the Warrior Union Hall were looking at him. Whispers could be heard all around. Where did this kid come from? He looks like a magician. What did he come to our Warrior Union for? Is he here to challenge us? He's too bold. Who knows where he came from, but I haven't seen a magician wearing a golden magic robe. He's really arrogant. Just looking at him makes me angry. Come, let's go test him. There were many people who wanted to test Nian Bing's strength. Nian Bing was still observing the surrounding environment when dozens of warriors surrounded him. These warriors obviously did not have good intentions. One of the tall warriors strode towards Nian Bing's direction, but he did not seem to see Nian Bing, and his strong body directly collided with Nian Bing. Nian Bing did not move, and it seemed that he did not see the opponent either. At this moment, a gray shadow flashed, and the green-level warrior who stayed by Nian Bing's side took the initiative to collide with the tall warrior. With a muffled bang, the 2 completely disproportionate bodies collided, but the result was unexpected. The green-level warrior acted as if nothing had happened, still standing by Nian Bing's side, while the tall warrior was knocked flying. He did not fall to the ground until several other warriors caught him. The actions of the green-ranked warriors immediately attracted the attention of the others. Loud shouts rang out, and the warriors quickly surrounded Nian Bing and Luo Yunyang. However, they did not use any weapons. Nian Bing coldly snorted and stopped the green-level warrior beside him. In the next moment, 7 faint shadows appeared in the hall of the Warriors' Union. Every warrior clearly felt a chill on their body, and when they subconsciously looked at their own bodies, they were shocked to find that no matter if they were wearing armor or not, there were neat cuts on their chests, and the cuts formed the word white hair. Strength proved everything, and the warriors who were originally provoking Nian Bing stopped. But those who were not stupid knew very well that if Nian Bing wanted to take their lives, even if there were 10 of them, they would have disappeared. Nian Bing was still standing there, and the green-level warriors who saw Nian Bing for the first time could not help but have a burst of light in their eyes. No one saw how Nian Bing made his move. Although most of the warriors in the Warriors' Hall were below the great swordsman level, no one dared to underestimate this golden-robed magician with such strength, who could make so many warriors fall into his attack without any resistance in an instant. Another green-level warrior came back, nodded to him, and led him to the back of the Warriors' Union. The surrounding warriors automatically made way for Nian Bing and watched him leave. After passing through a large door and walking through a wide passageway, the green warrior brought Nian Bing to a large hall. The hall was luxuriously decorated, and a middle-aged man in his 40s was sitting on a big chair. When he saw Nian Bing coming in under the guidance of the green-level warrior, he stood up and greeted, "Your subordinate Inze, the leader of the Ice Moon Hall, greets the leader." Lude? There was someone with such a name? Nian Bing felt a little funny. Is this the entrance of the Ice Moon Hall? Great hermits live in the city. This place is very good. Inzue smiled and said, "Thank you for your praise, leader." He didn't have the cold aura of the blood of the leader of the Ice Snow Flag, but the smile on his face was even more frightening in Nian Bing's eyes. "Leader Yin, since you know my identity, you must have received my order. How many of our people are here now?" Nian Bing said calmly. Inzue hesitated for a moment, then said, "Leader, the experts of our hall have all been gathered, but the people of the other halls haven't arrived yet." Nian Bing raised his eyebrows. "Oh? The 2 halls of the Qi Lu Empire and the Huarong Empire are far away, but why haven't the people of the Aolan Hall and the Lang Mu Hall arrived yet? Is this the efficiency of our bloodline cult?" Inze stood up straight and said in a neither servile nor overbearing tone, "Leader, because the 7 elders of the Bloodline Hall haven't arrived, the other halls of our cult have some doubts about your order, so they haven't moved yet." Nian Bing sneered, "Good. It seems that I haven't been recognized as the leader yet." He couldn't help but feel a little impatient. There were only 3 months left until the appointment with Long Ji, and the main force of the Bloodline cult still hadn't arrived yet. Once the Bloodline Hall confirmed his identity and dispatched more people, the time would be even more tight. However, he couldn't blame the other 4 halls for being cautious. After all, the Bloodline cult was so powerful, and if the leader was an imposter and he gave the order to mobilize all the fighting forces of the cult, it was indeed worth considering. There was no other way now, and he could only hope that the 7 elders would come sooner. Thinking of this, Nian Bing said, "Leader Yin, since the 7 elders haven't arrived yet, we have to do some groundwork first. Where is the information about the princes of the Ice Moon Empire that I ordered?" Inzue's eyes flashed, and he said, "I'm sorry, leader, but before you get the recognition of the 7 elders, I can't carry out your order. Maybe you don't know, but although the previous leader has the right to nominate the next leader to become the real leader of our cult, you have to pass the assessment of the 7 elders of the Bloodline Hall. Therefore, from a certain point of view, you're not the real leader yet. Everything will have to wait for the arrival of the 7 elders before we can make a decision." Although he spoke politely, the arrogance in his bones told Nian Bing, "Boy, you don't need me now." Nian Bing raised his head and looked at Inzue, who met his gaze calmly. Suddenly, Inzue felt a huge shock coming from Nian Bing's eyes, and he couldn't help but take a step back. He forced himself not to look at Nian Bing anymore, and a feeling of horror rose in his heart. He was actually 56 years old this year, but because of his powerful strength, he looked like he was in his 40s. He was one of the few people with the most promising prospects in the Bloodline cult, and had already been selected as the next elder of the cult. When he first saw Nian Bing, he did look down on him. Nian Bing's arrogant golden magic robe was the complete opposite of his preferred introverted personality. In addition, Nian Bing looked too young, so he didn't think that Nian Bing could become the new leader of the Bloodline cult. However, this one look caused a huge change in his mentality. Nian Bing's spiritual energy pierced through him like a solid substance, and even he, a swordsman, did not dare to look at him directly. Yin Zue was a little terrified. At this moment, Nian Bing's voice rang in his ears. It seems like I can't do anything now. Yin Zue's heart trembled, and he lowered his head. Leader, you can rest in the Ice Moon Hall for the time being. Wait for the arrival of the 7 elders of the Bloodline cult. I think they will be here in a few days. He suddenly felt that it was very difficult to say these words. Nian Bing's body was constantly emitting a strong pressure, which made it difficult for him to breathe. It was not only from the spiritual pressure, but also from the physical pressure at the same time. Nian Bing nodded and said, "All right, then I won't disturb Hall Master Yin any longer." With that, he turned and walked out. Things did not go as smoothly as he had expected. Although the potential of the Bloodline cult was strong, it was not easy for him to completely control it. They did not do anything wrong. After all, how could such a strong force be controlled so easily? After Nian Bing left, Yin Zue's heart was uneasy. At this moment, his subordinates reported to him everything that had happened outside. White-haired, who are you? Out of the Warriors' Union. Nian Bing hesitated for a moment. Should he still rely on the power of the Bloodline cult? The answer was yes. Before he had the power of the Bloodline cult, he had to do something first. Although they said that they could not treat him as the leader for the time being, the 2 green-level warriors still followed him. Nian Bing called a green-level warrior and said, "Take me to where Blood Devourer and Soul Destroyer live. I think you should know where he lives." The green-ranked warrior nodded and led the way. Nian Bing turned around to look at the Warriors' Union behind him. He thought to himself, "When I come back again, I will definitely take control of the entire Bloodline sect." As he walked, Nian Bing recalled the information he had inquired before leaving Ice Snow City. Blood Devourer and Soul Destroyer Shuepa, one of the 3 marshals of the Ice Moon Empire, was in charge of the most powerful knight regiment in the Ice Moon Empire. He was known for his cold-blooded killing style and was extremely powerful. In the Ice Moon Empire, he was definitely a person with real power. At the same time, he was also Xue Ji's brother and Xue Jing's uncle. So far, this was all the information Nian Bing knew. In Ice Moon City, other than the Bloodline cult, the only person he could have some relations with was this Marshal Xue Pa. Of course, he did not expect Xue Pa to participate in the plan, but as long as he had some support, it was enough. At least, he could help him make the most crucial move. As one of the 3 marshals of the Ice Moon Empire, Xue Pa's mansion was very large. The 2 green-level warriors brought him to the mansion. Nian Bing let them leave first and walked towards the gate of the mansion alone. Who dares to trespass into the marshal's mansion? The 4 guards at the gate stopped Nian Bing. Nian Bing smiled and said, "Big brothers, I came from Ice Snow City's Qingfeng Zhai and want to see the marshal." The guards looked at Nian Bing and said, "Wait a moment." Then, one of them went into the mansion to report. After a while, the guards came out with a person who looked like a housekeeper. The housekeeper looked at Nian Bing in confusion and said, "You are from Qingfeng Zhai? I don't think I have seen you before." Nian Bing's golden magic robe made him a little suspicious. Nian Bing took out a letter and handed it to the housekeeper and said, "Please pass this letter to the marshal. I think he will see me." This letter was the recommendation letter he asked Xue Ji to write before leaving Ice Snow City. Since he knew what he was going to do in Ice Moon City, Nian Bing made some preparations. The housekeeper took the letter back to the marshal's mansion. Nian Bing was not in a hurry. He stood at the gate of a marshal's mansion and looked at the street. At this time, a carriage arrived at the gate of the marshal's mansion. The carriage looked very luxurious. The servant who followed the carriage lifted the curtain, and 2 people came down from the carriage. 2 women came down from the carriage. The one who came down first was younger and looked to be in her 20s. She had bright eyes and white teeth and looked very beautiful. The one who came down later was a middle-aged woman. She was dressed gorgeously, but did not lose her elegance. She walked towards the door with the servants surrounding her. Nian Bing quickly stood to the side and made way for the gate. When the 2 women saw him, they could not help but be stunned for a moment. The young girl looked at Nian Bing's handsome face with some surprise and asked the guard beside her, "Who is he?" Why is he standing in front of our mansion? The guard quickly answered. Miss, he said he came from Ice Snow City's Qingfeng and asked to see the marshal. The housekeeper has already brought the letter he brought in for the marshal to see. The young girl was obviously very interested in Yinbing. Oh, you came from Qingfeng. So, you must know my cousin? Yinbing smiled and said, If you are referring to Xu Ejing, then I do know her. You must be Marshal Shue's daughter. Yes. My name is Shueyu. I haven't been to Ice Snow City for a long time. I really want to eat Uncle Ming's golden incense rings. Looking at Shueyu's appearance, Yinbing secretly said in his heart, Another greedy girl. The middle-aged woman smiled and said, Since you came from Qingfeng, you are not an outsider. You can go in with us. I think the master will see you. Yinbing followed the beautiful woman and Shueyu and finally entered the marshal's mansion. After a few steps, he met the housekeeper. Madame Shui asked, and sure enough, Shuepa asked the housekeeper to invite Yinbing. Shueyu originally wanted to ask Yinbing about Qingfeng, but she was pulled away by Madame Shui. Yinbing followed the housekeeper through 3 courtyards and then came to the study of Shuepa. After the housekeeper reported, he took Yinbing into the study. As soon as he entered the study, Yinbing saw Shuepa sitting behind the desk. Snow Soul was tall, and he was sitting there reading a book. His appearance was at least 70% similar to Shueji's. What surprised Yinbing was that Marshal Snow Soul, who was known to devour knowledge and destroy souls, was actually emitting a strong scholarly aura. He looked more like a well-educated scholar. What was the iron blood style? Of course, Yinbing was not an ordinary person with shallow knowledge. Appearance was not enough to judge a person. He hurriedly stepped forward and saluted. Yinbing greets Marshal Shui. Shuepa put down the book in his hand. He picked up the letter that Yinbing sent to the housekeeper. You were sent by Shueji, right? Shueji said in the letter that you were his friend. Why are you looking for me? Shuepo's voice was clear. It was not as deep as Shueji's, and it sounded very comfortable. Yinbing and Shuepo's eyes met. He saw coldness in Shuepo's eyes. Yinbing said, I came to Ice Moon City this time to see a friend. I also need Marshal Shue's help. My friend is the Ice Moon Empire's 7th prince, His Highness Yinfeng. Shuepa looked at Yinbing in surprise. His gaze was a bit strange. You want to see Yinfeng? He just returned to Ice Moon City not long ago. Although I am an important official, I can't see the princes casually. Now that the Ice Moon Empire's king was seriously ill, it was the time when the princes were fighting fiercely. He, who had always been neutral, had rejected the prince's requests. How could he meet the princes casually now? Yinbing thought of Yinfeng's special hobby and could not help but smile bitterly. With Yinfeng's hobby, it would be hard for Marshal Shui not to misunderstand. Yinfeng. Oh, Yinfeng, just let me be the scapegoat. Then, he said calmly, Marshal, you don't have to be troubled. You just need to tell me where Yinfeng is. I have my ways to see him. With his current strength, the palace's defense was nothing. Shuepa frowned and said, Thank you for delivering the letter on behalf of my brother. However, I can't help you with this. If there's nothing else, you can leave. Yinbing smiled when he saw Shuepo's unapproachable expression. He said calmly, Marshal Shui, you must be afraid of getting into trouble if you're not willing to help me. In fact, I just want to meet my friend. It's not difficult for Marshal Shui to tell me where Yinfeng is, Dad. Shuepa snorted. What a joke. I, Shuepa, have never known what fear is. However, you're just a little magician. Why should I help you? Originally, Shueji asked him to take care of Yinbing in the letter. However, when he thought that Yinbing was friends with the 7th prince who had a special hobby, Shuepa felt an indescribable disdain. Yinbing smiled faintly and said, If that's the case, then I'm sorry for being rude. Marshal Shui, the Ice Moon Empire is in a delicate situation. As an important official of the Empire, shouldn't you think about the future of the Ice Moon Empire? Shuepa frowned. What do you mean? Yinbing smiled and said, Nothing much. I just feel that as one of the 3 marshals of the Ice Moon Empire, Marshal Shui doesn't support any of the princes of the Ice Moon Empire. Although you have a high position and power, and no matter which prince inherits the throne, They will put you in an important position. Don't you think more about the empire? Currently, the princes who have the most hope of inheriting the throne are the first prince, second prince, and fifth prince. If the three of them fight, it will cause political turmoil. It will be detrimental to the development of the Ice Moon Empire. Schweppe snorted. What do you know? The Ottoman Empire and the Longmu Empire have both recovered from their battle with the Hwarong Empire. Only these two empires share a border with our empire. Even if our empire's political situation is unstable, as long as I, Schweppe, am here, they won't be able to do anything to us. The Ottoman Empire has always been on good terms with our empire. The Longmu Empire has just lost and has lost a lot of strength. Would they dare to do anything to our empire? Kid, who are you? You're just a commoner. It's not good for you to care about politics. For Shueji's sake, I won't make things difficult for you. But if you continue to spout nonsense, don't blame me for being rude. Nian Bing smiled. I misspoke. Please forgive me, Marshal. Then, I have a request. I won't make things difficult for you. I want to stay in the Marshal's residence and be a chef. Is that okay? Schweppe was stunned. What did you say? You want to be a chef? Judging from your attire, you should be a magician, right? Nian Bing smiled. Who said that magicians can't be chefs? As he spoke, he took off his golden magician's robe, revealing his commoner attire. His long white hair draped over his shoulders. He looked a little strange. Seeing Nian Bing's white hair and commoner attire, Schweppe frowned. What are you trying to do? Nian Bing looked at Schweppe with a surprised expression. Marshal, didn't Uncle Shueji tell you that I'm a chef in his letter? Uncle Shueji has already decided that I will represent Qing Feng Zhai in the God of Cookery tournament in 5 months. I think my cooking skills will definitely satisfy you. When I entered the Marshal's residence, I met Miss Shueyu. She seemed to like Qing Feng Zhai's golden fragrance ring. What a coincidence. I know how to make this dish. When I first came to Ice Moon City, I've already spent all my traveling expenses. I don't need too much reward. I just want a place to stay. Schweppe asked doubtfully, You're really a chef? This is the first time I've heard of a chef who knows magic. All right, I'll give you a chance. It's almost noon. If you can make a meal that satisfies me, I'll keep you as a chef in the residence. Servants. Yes, Marshal. A servant walked in and bowed to Schweppe. Chapter 140. Schweppe pointed at Nian Bing and said, Bring him to the kitchen. He will make my lunch today. No one else is allowed to help him, understand? Yes, Marshal. The servant Nian Bing nodded and turned to leave the study. Nian Bing bowed to Schweppe and followed him out. Looking at Nian Bing's departing figure, Schweppe muttered to himself, Shueji, who is this person that you are recommending to me? It seems that I really need to ask him clearly. Thinking of this, he summoned another servant and hurriedly wrote a letter, ordering the servant to send it to Ice Snow City as soon as possible. The Marshal's residence's dining hall was specially prepared for Schweppe's family. At noon, Shueyu, who was already hungry, pulled her mother to the dining hall. As soon as she entered, she smelled a rich fragrance and said in surprise, It smells so good. What is this dish? When she saw the dishes on the table, she couldn't help but be stunned. Could the dishes on the table still be called dishes? They were clearly pieces of art. The only thing she recognized was a plate of golden incense rings. Including the incense rings, there were a total of 6 dishes, but all of them were of the highest quality. Just the color and fragrance alone were enough to whet Shueyu's appetite. Madame Shui was also surprised. Looking at the exquisite dishes in front of her, she asked suspiciously, Is there a new chef in the residence? Look at this group of people. Their cooking skills are really good. Yes, there's a new chef. Isn't that me? Nian Bing's voice sounded. He walked in with the supreme 9 dragons cauldron of ice and fire 9 heavens in his hands. The jade-like cauldron was 2/3 full with pearl and jade kanji. Carefully placing the cauldron in the center of the table, Nian Bing smiled and said, I wonder if my cooking will satisfy Madam and young Mississippi. Shueyu looked at Nian Bing said in surprise, You are a chef? Why do I remember that you were wearing a magician's robe when you came? Nian Bing smiled and said, That was just for show. I came from the Breeze restaurant, so naturally I'm a chef. This time, I'm here to ask Uncle Shueji to introduce me to the Marshal's mansion. At this moment, Shuepa finally came in from outside. He also smelled the fragrance. The moment he entered, he naturally saw Nian Bing, his wife, and his daughter. Looking at the 7 exquisite dishes on the table, his eyes couldn't help but light up. Although he didn't have high requirements for food, the 7 dishes made by Nian Bing were too tempting, especially the supreme 9 dragons cauldron in the center. The exquisite carvings on the cauldron were definitely not something an ordinary chef could make. Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, "Marshal, please test my culinary skills. I think you will be satisfied." Although he didn't make the 7 dishes that he was best at, these 7 dishes were his earliest creation of the Ice and Fire 9 Heavens cuisine. Every dish was exquisitely crafted. If this couldn't satisfy Shuepa, then there were probably not many chefs in the entire Yangon continent that could satisfy him. Shuepa glanced at Nian Bing, then walked to the main seat and sat down. Madam Shui hurriedly served her husband dinner. Shui couldn't wait any longer. "Father, I'm going to eat. It seems that the chef Uncle introduced to us is very good. The last time we went to Ice Snow City, you asked Uncle to borrow Uncle Ming Yuan, but Uncle didn't agree. This time, he really sent us a chef. I'm going to have a good meal in the future." Shuepa said in a deep voice, "You little girl, you don't have any manners at all. How are you like a girl? Don't learn from your sister. Don't tell me you want to be called a crazy girl too. Eat." Shui was obviously afraid of Shuepa. She stuck out her tongue and didn't dare to say anything else. She immediately dug into the dishes on the table. Nian Bing stood at the side and didn't leave. He looked at Shuepo's family of 3 eating the food that he made and felt excited. How he wished that he could have lunch with his parents. But as far as he could remember, this was a simple request for ordinary people, but it had never been fulfilled. "Wow, it's delicious. What made this? It's so fresh. I haven't eaten anything so good before. It seems even better than Uncle Ming Yuan's." Shui couldn't help but exclaim after tasting the Ice and Fire 8 extremes. However, Shueji didn't stop her this time because he was also shocked by Nian Bing's culinary skills. Not only were the 7 dishes on the table beautiful, the taste was also unique. The seemingly ordinary ingredients were turned into delicacies after Nian Bing's processing. Every bite had a different feeling. Even a most ordinary rice was filled with a rich aroma. Seeing Shuepa pick up a golden incense ring, Nian Bing smiled and said, "Knead your delicate hands in a jade, fried in green oil until it's tender and deep yellow. Sleep in spring at night is light, and the beauty's arm is golden." A good golden incense ring not only needs to be golden in color, it also needs to be fragrant, crispy, and fragrant. Only then can it be called a golden incense ring. "I think I've done it." Shuepa didn't say anything. He put the golden incense ring into his mouth and took a bite. Just as Nian Bing said, fragrant, crispy, and fragrant. The rich aroma entered his mouth, and he couldn't help but eat the entire golden incense ring in one go. The food on the table kept decreasing. Whether it was Shuepa, Madame Shui, or Shueyu, it was their first time eating so much food. Including the supreme 9 dragons cauldron that Nian Bing served at the end, all 7 delicacies were gone. Seeing the family of 3 finish the last bit of food, Nian Bing smiled and said, "Thank you for your praise, Marshal." Shuepa glanced at Nian Bing and said, "How do you know that I'm praising you?" Nian Bing smiled and said, "For a chef, it's naturally the greatest praise if the food he made is eaten clean, isn't it, Marshal Shui?" Nian Bing nodded. Although he was a little suspicious of Nian Bing's identity, he couldn't make such a delicious meal in a day or 2. In his marshal's residence, there wasn't a chef who could do this. Therefore, even if someone wanted to help him, it was impossible. After tasting Nian Bing's food, his doubts were reduced a little. "All right, you've overpaid. From now on, you're a chef in my marshal's residence. However, you have to remember that my marshal's residence is very strict. If you break the rules, don't blame me for being merciless. How much do you want as a reward?" Nian Bing smiled and said, "Marshal, I don't care about the reward. Money is a fleeting thing. However, I have a small request. I'm here to be your chef, but I'll only cook dinner from now on. I've just arrived at Ice Moon City, so I want to walk around and learn from the famous chefs in Ice Moon City. Therefore, please allow me to not be in the residence during the day." Before Shuepa could say anything, Shueyu said, "Then you can't make lunch for your cousins." "Oh, right, what's your name?" "My name is Nianbing." "Marshal, why don't you promise me this spare part?" Although Nianbing was answering Shueyu's question, her eyes were fixed on Shuepa. Shuepo's eyes flashed and said, "All right, I'll allow you to only cook dinner. You're recommended by Shueji, so I won't treat you unfairly. From now on, you'll be paid 20 gold coins every month. Let the housekeeper arrange a place for you." After saying that, she got up and walked out of the dining hall. Once Shuepa left, Shueyu immediately jumped up and went to Nianbing and said, "Nianbing, your cooking skills are amazing. Are you better than Uncle Ming Yuan?" Nianbing smiled and said, "You can't say that. Chef Ming Yuan and I have our own strengths. Miss, I'll take my leave first." After saying that, she bowed to Madame Shui and left the dining hall. Nianbing decided to stay in Shuepa Manor as a chef. Of course, she had her own plans. If she wanted to change the world, she would have to enter the chaotic political situation of the Ice Moon Empire. Shuepa had a very high status in the Ice Moon Empire. If she stayed in his manor, she would be able to avoid a lot of unnecessary trouble. This way, it would be very beneficial for her actions. After finding the housekeeper to arrange a place for her to stay, Nianbing left Shuepo's manor and returned to the hotel. Kitty and Bingyun had already returned. When she heard the door open, Kitty quickly ran over and said unhappily, "Big brother Nianbing, where did you go?" Nianbing smiled and said, "Big brother went to find a job. I can't just sit around and eat." "Job? Are you talking about work? Where is Big brother working?" Kitty asked curiously. Nianbing smiled and said, "Don't ask about that. Big brother found a job as a chef. However, I only work there at night. I'll be back the next morning." "Kitty, do you want to stay here with Big Sister Bingyun, or do you want to go home?" "I don't want to go home. Big Sister Bingyun is so nice. She bought a lot of good things for Kitty yesterday." "Big brother Nianbing, wait a moment." After saying that, she turned around and ran out. When she came back, she had a fur coat in her hand. The fur was brownish yellow, and the fine short hair exuded a faint luster. One look, and one could tell that it was an expensive item. Kitty handed the fur coat to Nianbing. "Big brother, I bought this for you. It's cold now. How can you wear so little?" "Big brother, it must be hard on you. Your hair is all white." Taking the soft fur coat, Nianbing felt a warmth in his heart. He knew that Kitty was sincerely good to him. "Thank you, Kitty. Big brother's hair is white, not because he's tired." "Kitty, this coat must have cost you a lot of money, right? How can Big brother take something from you?" Kitty giggled and said, "It's okay. Kitty doesn't have money. The money was borrowed from Big Sister Bingyun. This coat was picked out for me by Big Sister Bingyun. She said that snow leopard fur is the best for keeping warm. Big brother, try it on and see if it fits." Nianbing couldn't bear to reject Kitty's kindness. He put on the snow leopard fur coat. Indeed, not only was the coat warm, it was also very light. It was very comfortable to wear. Nianbing wore it just right. "That's great. Big brother Nianbing, this coat is just right for you." Kitty bought the right one. Kitty clapped her hands happily, as if she had gotten something good. Nianbing smiled and said, "Kitty, Big brother can't take your gift for free. Give me something in return." As soon as the words left his mouth, he realized that it was inappropriate. Apart from the 7 magic blades, he didn't have anything valuable on him. Nianbing's heart skipped a beat. He grabbed Kitty's hand and said, "Let's go. Let's borrow something from your Big Sister Bingyun." Kitty was brought to Kitty and Bingyun's room. Bingyun was sitting on the bed meditating. When she felt Nianbing's presence, she opened her eyes and said coldly, "Who told you to come to our room?" Nianbing said, "Kitty gave me a coat. I have to give something in return. Miss Bingyun, can you lend me a few white scrolls? I'll return them to you when I buy them." Bingyun frowned, but still took out 3 white scrolls and threw them to Nianbing. Nianbing didn't go back to his room. He spread out the 3 best white scrolls on the table. A rainbow light flashed, and the eye of the sky appeared about a foot away from him. Nianbing thought for a moment, then immediately gathered his magic and began to draw on the scrolls. His actions not only attracted Kitty's attention, Frozen Cloud couldn't help but stand up and watch Nian Bing's action from a distance. Nian Bing's fingers trembled, and beautiful lines gradually appeared on the white scrolls. His movements were extremely fast. Every magic symbol was natural, and the symbols gradually became more complex. Bing Yun, who always prided herself on her knowledge of magic, was surprised to find that many of the magic symbols that Nian Bing drew were combinations that she hadn't seen before. She had worked hard on magic arrays before, but Nian Bing's speed was too fast. She could only vaguely feel some of it, but she couldn't be sure what kind of magic Nian Bing was drawing. As more and more magic symbols appeared and became more complex, Nian Bing's movements gradually slowed down. The final completion of the magic scrolls was the most important. Once he made a mistake or channeled magic unevenly, the scrolls would immediately be destroyed. Red and blue light flashed alternately. The 3 scrolls were completed at the same time. Nian Bing closed the scrolls and channeled the last bit of magic into them. Only then did he clap his hands in satisfaction. Success! He stuffed the 3 scrolls into Kitty's hands and smiled. Kitty, you carry these 3 scrolls with you. These 3 are magic scrolls with the same origin of ice and fire. When combined, their power can reach level 7 or above. With your innate spiritual power, it should be easy for you to control their power. It's best to use them for self-defense. I've set up different defense levels for the 3 scrolls. When attacked with different degrees, one of them will be activated. Consider this a gift from Big Brother to you. Okay, thank you, Big Brother Nian Bing. Kitty put the 3 magic scrolls into her arms. She didn't know the power of these 3 scrolls, but Bing Yun was very clear about it. These 3 scrolls could produce level 7 magic. Moreover, they were magic scrolls created by the legendary Ning. They didn't even fail once when they were made. The value of these 3 scrolls was too high. Nian Bing's miraculous magic display made her look at him in a new light. Nian Bing, how long do you plan to stay in Ice Moon City? Bing Yun asked coldly. She naturally meant when Nian Bing would follow her back to the Ice God Tower. Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, when I'm done, I'll naturally leave here. However, I'm not sure how long it will take, but it definitely won't be more than 3 months. Bing Yun was slightly angry. 3 months? Where do I have so much time to waste with you? Nian Bing said, then you can find someone to catch me at any time. As long as you can catch me, you can naturally bring me to the Ice God Tower. It wasn't that Bing Yun didn't think of using the power of the Ice God Tower to catch Nian Bing. However, a magic shooter with an innate domain was definitely not much worse than an ordinary magus, especially Nian Bing's strange innate domain. Moreover, he also had a strange shadow puppet. This made her have no confidence. If she brought the people of the Ice God Tower to catch Nian Bing, she was afraid that it would bring a lot of losses. Moreover, she was getting more and more confused about Nian Bing's strength. In a situation where she wasn't sure, she was more willing to wait. After arriving at Ice Snow City, she wasn't in a hurry to contact the forces of the Ice God Tower. Perhaps it was because of Kitty. Although Bing Yun hated Nian Bing, she also found that this man that she hated was leaving a deeper and deeper impression in her heart. Powerful magic, profound culinary skills. Every one of them left a deep impression on her. This afternoon, she and Kitty casually ate something outside. She was surprised to find that she didn't have the slightest interest in the snacks that she thought were delicious. Only then did she realize that she was already somewhat used to Nian Bing's food. Brother Nian Bing, Sister Bing Yun, can you guys stop arguing? Kitty looked at one side and then looked at the other. She didn't like this kind of deadlock atmosphere. Nian Bing smiled and said, okay, I'll stop arguing. Brother will go back first. You can accompany Sister Bing Yun. After saying that, he glanced at Bing Yun and turned to return to his room. After returning to his room, Nian Bing began his routine meditation. The previous day's operation was very unsmooth. Not only did he not make use of the bloodline cult's power, even Snow Soul was unwilling to help him meet Yin Feng. It seemed that it wasn't easy to help Yin Feng ascend to the throne. After all, one person's power was too weak. However, he didn't have any other power in the Ice Moon Empire that he could use. Now, he could only take one step at a time and hope that the seventh elder of the Bloodline Hall would come quickly. He didn't know what their test was, but as long as it wasn't too difficult, he should be able to pass. Not long after Nian Bing used the Xiantian method to cultivate, there was a sudden change in his body. Oscar's gray energy in his chest suddenly trembled, and then a faint golden light spread out from the center of the gray light. Nian Bing felt his heart skip a beat. An indescribable feeling instantly spread throughout his body. A layer of fine gray scales condensed on the surface of his skin, and on the scales, there was a faint golden light. Yeah, I did it. Oscar's excited voice sounded in Nian Bing's heart. Nian Bing said unhappily, "What did you do? Can you help me take back this layer of scales first? Kaka, if you suddenly make some scales on me while I'm walking on the street, I'll strangle you to death." Oscar chuckled and said, "I was too excited. You can't blame me. I'll be careful next time." Nian Bing asked curiously, "What did you do? Could it be that you found a way to use your own energy so quickly?" "That's not it. However, I've cultivated the first layer of our dragon's mental cultivation method, so of course I'm happy, although I can't use my energy effectively. But cultivating the first layer of mental cultivation method can greatly increase my strength. I'm in your body, so the increase in my strength is also good for you. Don't you feel that your body has become even more resilient? Moreover, cultivating the first layer of mental cultivation method, my energy is more condensed than before. Perhaps I'll be able to find out the characteristics of my energy soon. I already have some connections now, so I believe it won't take too long." Nian Bing said, "Kaka, we're now sharing the same body. Is it possible that our energy can also be fused under certain spare parts? If that's the case, then with my ice and fire magic combined with the other 5 elements magic, combined with your ability, our combined strength will certainly be greatly increased." Kaka thought for a moment and said, "It doesn't seem possible. Although I don't know why. My dragon's power doesn't reject your power. But the things you people cultivate are very different from the ones we dragons cultivate. It's very difficult to fuse them. However, because we share the same body, it could be said that our souls are connected. When you're in danger, or when you're particularly excited, I can feel it and immediately wake up from my deep sleep state. Because I still can't fully understand my own energy, it's impossible for me to help you attack, but it shouldn't be a problem for me to help you defend the body we share. Moreover, I found that after your energy awakens, my cultivation speed is particularly fast once you're in a meditative state. It seems that your magic is of great help to me. Nian Bing, when you feel danger, you can also take the initiative to wake me up and let me help you defend. With my defensive power, unless it's a forbidden spell, ordinary magic, or physical attack, it's very difficult to cause harm to our body. Oh, by the way, the dragon's mantra that I cultivate was stolen from my father's heart. You must not tell anyone. This mantra can only be cultivated by the successor of the dragon god. When I broke through the first level, I suddenly had a feeling that even if you can't completely open the 7 acupoints to help me rebuild my body, once I reach the top 13 levels of the dragon god mantra, it's possible for me to rebuild my body on my own. After all, my energy is too strange. Even the dragons themselves don't have records of it. Maybe, in the future, I can become an unprecedented powerhouse of the dragons. Hee. Nian Bing suddenly thought of something and quickly asked, "Kaka, if I let you control my body, can you capture and obtain the secrets in other people's hearts?" If she could use Kaka's ability to obtain the secrets in Bing Yun's heart, then saving her parents would be possible, and she wouldn't have to continue with some of her later plans. Oscar said, "That's impossible. My ability is very strange. It's very weak compared to my own dragon power. I can only obtain the secrets in other people's hearts when they open up to me with all their hearts. If I want to forcibly obtain other people's secrets, at least for now, it's impossible. Wait until my ability is strong enough, then I can try. Right now, my ability in this area is still too weak. I'm afraid it will backfire." "What's wrong? Which girl have you taken a fancy to? You want to know the secrets in other people's hearts?" "Shut up. Am I that kind of person? I'm doing it for something else." Kaka's answer made Ling Nian Bing a little disappointed. She knew that her plan still had to be carried out. Kaka laughed. Of course it's that kind of person. But the feeling of watching your erotic performance is really good. Even I feel hot. Fuck. Nian Bing raised her middle finger to the air. You peeping Tom, you better not let me know which female dragon you like in the future. Otherwise, don't blame me for taking revenge. Oscar laughed. Boss, don't. No matter what, we're still one body now. I'm younger than you, and I'm also your younger brother. How can you treat me like this? Is this okay? The next time you're intimate with your wife, tell me in advance. I'll definitely sleep tight and won't disturb you. Nian Bing snorted and said, That's more like it. Well, let's cultivate together. It felt very good to have a dragon to help IG defend. In the evening, Nian Bing said goodbye to Kitty and left the hotel again. Kitty was reluctant to let him leave, but after Nian Bing promised to make her breakfast and lunch tomorrow, she was able to leave. Bing Yin was naturally surprised when she heard from Kitty that Nian Bing was going to be a chef. She really couldn't figure out what Nian Bing was planning, but with Kitty, she wasn't afraid that Nian Bing would run away. After returning to the Marshal's mansion, Nian Bing cooked a sumptuous dinner for Shui Po's family and returned to his room. Since he had to wait, he wasn't in a hurry. It was most important to improve his strength at every moment. He meditated from a meal until the next day. Nian Bing could clearly feel that his strength had increased a bit. The realm of Archmage had completely stabilized. The energy contained in the 7 balls of light was extremely large. Even without the enhancement of the Heavenly Eye domain, it wasn't that difficult to cast 2 spells of the 9th step at the same time. 5 days passed. Nian Bing lived a very regular life. Every morning, he would return to the hotel from the Marshal's mansion to make breakfast for Kitty and Bing Yin. In the morning, he would meditate in the hotel and cook for them at noon. In the afternoon, he would occasionally walk around the streets and return to the Marshal's mansion to make dinner. After dinner, he would immediately return to his room to meditate until the next morning. In the beginning, Shuepa was very worried about Nian Bing and sent someone to keep an eye on him. However, as the 5 days passed, Nian Bing didn't do anything harmful to the Marshal's mansion. He only interacted with Kitty and occasionally took the kitty out on the streets. In addition, Nian Bing's culinary skills were really good, so Shuepa gradually felt more assured about him. Shueji's reply came today. In a letter, he strongly praised Nian Bing's culinary skills. This greatly relieved Shuepa, and she withdrew her surveillance of Nian Bing. All of this was done in secret, but Nian Bing knew what Chu Shuepa was doing. With his Heavenly Eye Acupoint's super observational skills, no surveillance could escape his senses. After lunch, Nian Bing didn't plan to go out today. He returned to his room in the hotel and sat cross-legged on the bed, preparing to begin cultivating. He spent almost all of his free time on cultivation. He was very clear that his current strength was not enough to compete with a divine descent master. If he wanted to make a breakthrough, he couldn't hope for any miracles. Everything still depended on his own efforts and steadily increasing his strength. Just as Nian Bing was about to enter a meditative state, a light knocking sound came from the room's window. Nian Bing had already sensed who it was. He whispered, "Come in." The window quietly opened, and a figure floated in. It was one of the 2 green pole warriors who followed Nian Bing to Ice Snow City. He first saluted Nian Bing, then said, "Sect Master, the elders of Bloodline Hall have arrived. They invite you over." Nian Bing was overjoyed. They had finally arrived. He nodded to the green pole warrior and said, "Okay, let's go." He cast a wind-soaring spell on himself and followed the green pole warrior out of the window, heading towards the Warriors' Union. The Warriors' Union today was different from usual. There was a sign at the gate saying that all business was suspended. When Nian Bing arrived at the gate of the Union, the Hall Master of Ice Moon Hall, Yin Tu, personally welcomed him in. From Yin Tu's expression, Nian Bing understood that the 7 elders of Bloodline Hall had already proven their identities. Yin Tu said respectfully, "Sect Master, you're here. Please come in." Nian Bing nodded and followed Yin Tu into the Warriors' Union. Under Yin Tu's lead, he came to the room where he had met Yin Tu before. The room was very large. Even if it could accommodate 20 or 30 people, it would not feel crowded. As soon as he stepped into the room, Nian Bing immediately felt a strong sense of oppression. It was definitely not an ordinary aura. Only a real expert could have such a powerful aura. There were 7 people in the room. They, who were sitting on the sofa, stood up when they saw Ling Bing enter within Tuesday. Nian Bing nodded and said, "The 7 Bloodline Elders greet the acting sect master." They didn't greet him, but it was obvious that the 7 elders were shocked when they saw how young Nian Bing was. Acting sect master? There was an additional word, acting. It seemed that he was not the real sect master before he passed their test. Nian Bing smiled slightly and said, "Elders, you don't have to be so polite. Please take a seat." The 7 elders were dressed differently. The one in the lead looked much older than his grandfather, Prince Rome. His old face was covered with traces of wind and frost. He was also dressed very plainly. A grayish-white robe covered his medium stature. He was hale and hearty, and his dim yellow eyes shone brightly when he met Nian Bing's eyes. The other 6 elders were dressed differently. They looked about the same age as the leading elder, at least 80 or 90 years old. However, Nian Bing could clearly feel through his Tian Yin acupoint that there was a huge amount of explosive energy hidden in their old bodies. 3 of the other 6 elders were wearing magic robes. There were no symbols on the robes that represented their levels. They were divided into the fire element, ice element, and dark element. Nian Bing couldn't help but be shocked when he saw that one of the 3 elders was a darkness-type mage. One had to know that darkness-type mages were extremely rare in the current magical world. The other 3 elders were all dressed in warrior's attire. Although the attire wasn't extravagant, it gave off a lofty and majestic aura when they wore it. Chapter 141. Intu didn't stay in the room for long and closed the door behind him. Nian Bing clearly felt that he was guarding the door. As the leader of a hall and the leader of all the secret forces of the Bloodline cult in the Ice Moon Empire, he was actually guarding the door for the 7 elders. It was obvious how high the status of the 7 elders was in the Bloodline cult. Nian Bing and the 7 elders sat down separately. The other 6 elders all closed their eyes and rested. Only the elder who had greeted Nian Bing before said, "Acting Hierarch, we want to know why you are preparing to summon a large number of fighters of the Bloodline cult to the Ice Moon City. If your purpose is very beneficial to the cult, then even if you don't sit on the seat of the Hierarch, we will still support you to complete this operation. Otherwise, you'll have to pass our test before you can issue the order of the Hierarch." Nian Bing smiled. Although the elders didn't say anything, he knew that his test had already begun. The 7 elders were already here. He didn't feel anxious and said with a smile, "I haven't asked for the names of the 7 elders yet." The elder said indifferently, "We don't need names anymore. You only need to know that our surname is Rome. You can call me Great Elder. At the same time, I am also the chief elder of the Bloodline Hall." As he spoke, he pointed to the dark magician beside him who was dressed in a black magician's robe and said, "This is the 2nd elder." Then he pointed to Nian Bing one by one and told him the rankings of the elders. Among them, the 2nd elder, the 5th elder, and the 6th elder were magicians. The other 3 elders were warriors. Nian Bing was secretly shocked. It was indeed the power of the Rong family. In the Rong family, these 7 elders were probably all experts of the same generation as his grandfather. With such a huge underground power, perhaps even the Huarong Empire would be afraid of them. Great Elder, then I will call you as such. This time, I took the liberty to invite the elders here. I do have something important to do. Please wait a moment. The Great Elder interrupted Nian Bing. "I want to know your identity. There's something I have to tell you first. The other members of the cult can be outsiders, and they can be promoted according to their abilities and merits. However, only the cult leader and the Bloodline Hall elder must have the surname Rome. Since Demonic Lion has passed the position to you, I think you should understand the meaning of this position." Nian Bing nodded and said, "That's right, I understand. The Bloodline cult's greatest objective is to become the Rong family support. Once something happens to the Rong family, what I need to do is to protect everything in the Rong family. My surname is Rong. The previous sect master, Emo Shur, is my grandfather. My name is Nian Bing. You can also call me White Hair." The Great Elder looked at Nian Bing in surprise and said, We really didn't expect that demonic lion would pass the position to you after only a few years. It seems that he has his own considerations. But do you think you can do it? Nian Bing was shocked. Prince Rong had ruled the Rong family for dozens of years. Why did this great elder say that he had only been the bloodline cult's cult leader for a few years? The great elder seemed to have seen through Nian Bing's doubts and said indifferently. Before he became the cult leader, he had been the substitute cult leader for 52 years. Because he didn't pass our test at that time, he couldn't become the true cult leader. It was only a few years ago that he finally passed the test and received our approval. He is the one who can truly command the bloodline cult. As long as he receives our approval, the cult leader has the power to decide life and death in the cult. Nian Bing was shocked. She was very clear about Prince Rong's strength. According to this great elder, it seemed that Prince Rong would only become the cult leader after reaching the level of God Descending Master. It seemed that her test today wasn't that simple. Although she was shocked, Nian Bing didn't show it on her face. She smiled indifferently and said, "Great elder, what do you think I should do to be qualified for this position? After I promised grandfather that I would become the secret protector of the Rong family in the future, I have considered the difficulties. The bloodline cult does indeed possess unimaginable power, but I also understand that it is not that easy to truly become the cult leader of the bloodline cult." The great elder looked at Nian Bing and said with a smile, "It seems that you are very confident. You are demonic lion's grandson. Speaking of which, you should call me great-grandfather." Back then, Rong Yin stood out among all the Rong family's disciples. Although I am his father, I still pass my position to him, making him the substitute cult leader. All these years, although he couldn't completely command the bloodline cult, he didn't do anything wrong. I originally thought that he would pass the position of cult leader to Rong Yu, but I didn't expect it to fall on you. You should be Rong Yu's son, right? Nian Bing suddenly stood up from her seat. Looking at the great elder in front of her with a trace of kindness in her eyes, she bowed down without any hesitation. Great-grandfather. He was actually her grandfather's father, her great-grandfather. Although Nian Bing already had a high opinion of these 7 elders, she didn't expect their positions to be so revered. Zhang Sunrong, Nian Bing greets great-grandfather, greets great-uncles, and great-grandfathers. Great-grandfather, the Rong you speak of is my great-uncle. My father is Rong Tian. The great elder looked at Nian Bing with some surprise and said, "You are actually Rong Tian's son. I remember Demonic Lion told me that Rong Tian was kicked out of the family about 10 years ago. Could it be that your father went back?" A trace of sadness appeared in Nian Bing's eyes. She shook her head and knelt just like that. She told the great elder about her life and the experiences of her parents in detail. After listening to Nian Bing's narration, the great elder frowned slightly. "Sai, I met your father a few times before. Rong Tian is a very good child. If he could continue to develop in the Rong family, his achievements wouldn't be below his brothers. What a pity, for a woman, he actually fell to such a state." "Nian Bing, do you blame your grandfather?" Nian Bing said indifferently. "Great-grandfather, do you think I should blame my grandfather? If he was willing to support the marriage between my father and mother, perhaps today's situation wouldn't have happened. Now that I have become a member of the Rong family again, I don't want to think about what happened in the past. However, I have to avenge my parents." The great elder looked at Nian Bing. His gaze turned from kind to calm. "So you're saying that this time you dispatched the Bloodline Hall to deal with the Ice God Tower?" "Nian Bing, there is something I need to tell you. In the Bloodline Hall, no one could do anything for selfish reasons. Not to mention that you are only a substitute leader now, even if you become the real leader. The 7 of us have the right to reject your proposal. Do you understand? Yes, I feel that you didn't mobilize the people of the hall for your personal revenge. Otherwise, you can only blame Demonic Lion for choosing the wrong person." Nian Bing smiled indifferently and said, "Great-grandfather, the revenge of my parents is mine. I have never thought of using other people's hands to take revenge. You don't need to worry about this. I dispatched so many people for only one purpose, and that is to change the world. To change the world of the Ice Moon Empire." The great elder looked at Nian Bing with some astonishment and said, Tell us about it. Nian Bing stood up and sat back down. Imperceptibly, her body emitted a faint, dignified aura. Elders, you should all know the current situation of the Ice Moon Empire. Because the Ice Moon Empire hasn't started a war for over 100 years, the entire empire is recuperating. On the surface, the Longmu Empire is our Huarong Empire's biggest opponent. In fact, the Ice Moon Empire's national strength may not be comparable to the Longmu Empire's, but I dare say that in terms of fighting strength, they are definitely stronger than the Longmu Empire. Just look at the Ice God Tower, and you can see this point. With the powerful Ice God Tower of the Ice Moon Empire, they're a great threat to our Rome family. Therefore, the only way is to completely destroy the Ice God Tower. Only by destroying it can the flames of our Rome family burn in every corner of the continent. Of course, the target of our operation this time isn't the Ice God Tower. The Ice God Tower's current development is of course mainly due to the rallying power of the Ice Goddess priests. However, without the full support of the Ice Moon Empire, they wouldn't have been able to reach their current supremacy. Therefore, if we want to attack the Ice God Tower, we must first isolate it. If we want to isolate it, we must start with the Ice Moon Empire. The Ice Moon Empire is the foundation of the Ice God Tower. As long as we can control the Ice Moon Empire, the Ice God Tower will no longer be terrifying. The Great Elder was over 100 years old. Although Nian Bing didn't point it out, he already understood Nian Bing's meaning. You mean, we should take advantage of the current princes of the Ice Moon Empire to fight for the throne? Nian Bing nodded and said, this is the best opportunity. At present, the fight for the throne is between three princes, the eldest prince, the second prince, and the fifth prince. If my guess is correct, the eldest prince and the second prince are afraid that the fifth prince will steal their throne by relying on the favor of the king of the Ice Moon Empire, so they will definitely join forces to deal with him first. Although the fifth prince is favored by the king, in terms of strength, he can't contend against the two princes. This point can be clearly seen from the fact that he went to Ice Snow City to seek support. However, he also has the king's support, so the eldest prince and the second prince are afraid of attacking the rat for fear of breaking the vases. My plan is very simple. It is to support one of the princes to the throne. If this prince can be completely controlled by us, then do you think it will be beneficial to our bloodline cult and the Rome family? Of course, I know how difficult it is to succeed in this plan. We can only secretly use various circumstances to force the situation to our desired result. The Great Elder fell into deep thought after hearing Nian Bing's words. The other 6 elders also slowly opened their eyes. The pressure in the room obviously increased. Nian Bing sat there facing the 7 elders without any fear, waiting for their opinion. After a while, the Great Elder said, what you said is indeed very tempting. Although our bloodline cult has a strong underground force, there are many things that we can't reveal. If we can control a country, it will be very beneficial to our Rome family's ultimate goal. However, this is easy to say but very difficult to do. How can you guarantee that the prince we support will still listen to our orders after he obtains the throne? I want to know which of these 3 princes you plan to support. Nian Bing smiled and said, I don't plan to support any of them at all. I have never seen the first prince and the second prince, but since they can become the candidates for the throne, they have a lot of advantages in all aspects. Even if we can control them temporarily, we can't control them forever. As long as we give them a chance, I'm afraid it will be very disadvantageous to our bloodline cult. As for the 5th prince, I don't even need to talk about him. I have seen him before. He is a very gloomy person who doesn't show his emotions on his face. This kind of person can't be controlled at all. Therefore, the one I want to support is the 7th prince, who is the most inconspicuous among the 7 princes. I know this person. He has no desire for power. Moreover, he has a good relationship with me. If I want to control him, it will be much easier than controlling the other princes. I don't know if my choice will satisfy the elders. The first elder carefully looked at Nian Bing, as if he wanted to see something from her. After a long time, he sighed and said, now I gradually understand why your grandfather wanted to pass the position of hierarch to you. For many years, the successive hierarchs of our bloodline cult including me and your grandfather, have mostly focused on preserving our achievements. However, none of them were as bold as you. If this operation fails, then the blow to our bloodline cult and even the entire Rome family will be immeasurable. Of course, if this operation succeeds, it will also be of great benefit to us. You are indeed a talent to be able to come up with this idea. It seems that letting you take the position of hierarch was not a mistake. Although I also understand that, to a certain extent, you still have some selfish motives. You want to deal with the Ice God Tower and avenge your parents. However, as long as one is a human, who doesn't have selfish motives? Moreover, this Ice God Tower is what we want to deal with. I think the operation you proposed is very interesting and worth considering. However, we must discuss the specific details carefully. From now on, I temporarily give you the ability to use all the intelligence resources of our cult. As for the battle strength of our cult, you can only use it when the plan is thorough and you have at least a 70% chance of success. Of course, you also have a shortcut to fulfill your wish. As long as you can pass the hierarch's test, the 7 of us won't make things difficult for you. You can do whatever you want to do. At that time, we will completely listen to your orders. Unless you make a mistake big enough to overturn the whole family, you will become the supreme ruler of the bloodline cult. Nian Bing said, I have already heard about the test from Home Master Dang, but I don't know how to confirm my identity as the hierarch. He knew very well that it would be very difficult for him to pass the test, that even Prince Rome had to reach the level of divine descent master. However, these days of cultivation had increased Nian Bing's confidence in himself. No matter how difficult the test was, he had to give it a try. The great elder smiled faintly and said, the test is actually very simple. There's only one question. As he spoke, he waved his hand, and an incense stick appeared in his hand. Seeing the great elder casually summon a spatial magic item, Nian Bing's heart skipped a beat. This great elder was a magician. But why didn't he wear a magician's robe like the other 3 elders? While Nian Bing was puzzled, the great elder continued, it is very simple to pass the test. This incense stick is called Dragon Tian Xiang. Although it is very thin, it burns for a very long time, about half an hour. The fragrance has the effect of calming the mind. The test starts when the incense is lit and ends when it is extinguished. During this time, as long as you can withstand the full power of the 7 of us, you will pass. Hearing the great elder's words, Nian Bing couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He was sure that these 7 elders who were over 100 years old were all swordsmen and archmage-level experts. Moreover, with their age, they were naturally very experienced in battle. It would be very difficult for Bai Ji to withstand their combined attacks for half an hour. Nian Bing felt a chill run down her spine when she thought about how powerful the 7 elders were when they joined forces. The great elder saw that Nian Bing was a bit stunned, so he faintly smiled and said, of course, you can choose not to participate in the test for the time being. We won't make things difficult for you. Since you are the substitute leader, you are the first person to be nurtured by our Rome family's next generation. You are still young and have a lot of time in the future. When you feel that you can withstand this test, you can come and find the 7 of us at any time. Taking a deep breath, Nian Bing looked into the great elder's eyes and firmly said, I want to give it a try. The elders looked at Nian Bing with a bit of surprise. At first, when Nian Bing entered this room, they felt that it was very strange. In the history of the bloodline cult, there had never been anyone who could become the substitute leader at such a young age. Although the power of the substitute leader wasn't very great, it symbolized the best person to nurture the next generation of the Rome family. These 7 elders added up to more than 700 years old, so how could they put Nian Bing in their eyes? At this time, Nian Bing still decided to give it a try after hearing the method of the test. The 7 elders couldn't help but secretly admire this younger generation's courage. The great elder reminded, you have to think carefully. During the test, we definitely won't hold back. If you are harmed in any way and your future development is hindered, then we have the right to abolish your position as the substitute leader. After all, this was his great-grandson, so the great elder couldn't bear to see Nian Bing take this test right now. Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, "How can I know if I can't do it before I try? Elders, you are all the elders with the highest seniority in the family, so I think you all understand the difficulty of this operation. If I have to ask for your instructions every time during the operation and can't effectively command my subordinates, then the success rate will be greatly reduced. If I can't become the sect leader, then I'd rather give up this operation. Therefore, I have to try today's test." "Good, you're very brave. I didn't expect the Rong family to have such a talent like you in the next generation. Look at you. You seem to be very confident in yourself. All right, we'll fulfill your wish. But you have to remember, although you are our junior and are related to us by blood, in the test, no one will go easy on you. We will attack with all our strength. Everything is up to you now. Intu, come in." The door opened, and Intu walked in. Although he was at the door, the room was sealed by the few elders, so he didn't hear anything in the room. "Great Elder, what can I do for you?" The Great Elder said indifferently, "Take us to the underground fighting field of the Ice Moon Hall. At the same time, order your subordinates to seal off everything within 5 miles of the underground fighting field. Don't let anyone disturb us." Intu glanced at Nian Bing in surprise. He was an elder of the Bloodline sect, so he naturally knew what to do from the Great Elder's order. He didn't expect that Nian Bing would really take this test. Looking at Nian Bing, he couldn't help admiring her. Not to mention a 20-year-old young man. Even he, a master of swordsman's level, didn't have the courage to take the test of the 7 elders. Thinking of Prince Rong, who was covered in scars and almost lost his life, Intu looked at Nian Bing with pity. However, his hesitation only lasted for a moment. He didn't dare to disobey the Great Elder's order. Under Intu's lead, Nian Bing and the 7 elders entered the backyard of the Warriors' Union. Intu dismissed all his subordinates, and through some complicated operations, he opened a secret passage in the backyard's rockery. Only then did he lead Luan Bing and the 7 elders down the secret passage. Nian Bing couldn't help but laugh. This wasn't an underground force. The real base was underground. As she walked, she realized that the air in this underground world wasn't stuffy. She didn't know what method the Ice Moon Hall used, but they could still breathe fresh air even after walking a few hundred meters underground. As she walked, Luan Bing used her innate qi to quickly absorb the surrounding innate qi. Even if it was just a slight increase in her strength, she would be more confident in the following test. Deep underground, Nian Bing estimated that she and the 7 elders were about 500 meters underground. As expected of a sect that had been established for thousands of years, how much manpower and resources would it take to complete such a huge project? While thinking, she was brought to an underground square. The square was about 100 feet tall and 200 meters in diameter. The square was completely made of granite. Nian Bing could clearly feel that the hard granite had a strong magical aura. Intu explained, "This is the secret training base of the Ice Moon Hall, a place that specializes in cultivating combat talents. Those who were able to come here for the collective training were all experts from their respective banners. There are also some special training facilities around the square. Only those who have passed the test of iron and blood can walk out of here. Every member of the Ice Moon Hall who comes here, if they can't pass the 7 tests set by the officers, they can forget about leaving here for the rest of their lives." Nian Bing smiled and continued, "I am the instructor." Nian Bing smiled and said, "Our Bloodline cult is indeed the most powerful underground force in the continent. Let alone attacking a base like this, it is very difficult to even find it." Intu said, "That's right. This underground base is about 480 meters underground. It is almost hollowed out from a huge piece of granite. Above, below, and around us, there are at least several hundred feet of granite, let alone 3 feet underground. Even if you dig 300 feet underground, you won't be able to find this place. There is a special switch in the base. Once it is activated, the whole base will enter a sealed state. The enemy won't be able to find this place. Therefore, this is not only a place for us to cultivate new members, but also a place where we can adapt to emergencies." The Grand Elder said, "Intu, you can go now. When you leave, activate the mechanism and seal this place." Intu nodded and respectfully bowed to the seven elders and Nian Bing before he left. Before he left, he gave Nian Bing an encouraging look. The Bloodlion cult was extremely strict, and he deeply felt the extraordinariness of this new cult leader. Along with the rumbling sound, the underground square only shook slightly amidst the loud noise. The exit was already sealed, but the air in the square didn't change at all. Nian Bing could feel that the innate qi here was very rich. Perhaps it was connected to some earth vein. If she chose to cultivate here, it would be very good. When the last crack on the stone wall closed, Nian Bing's heart entered a state of complete calmness. He opened all his heavenly eye acupoints and released his energy to the maximum. His spiritual power spread to every corner of his surroundings, and he fully sensed the energy waves in the aura. At the same time, he absorbed all kinds of magical elements to strengthen his own magical power. At this time, her ability had reached its peak. The seven elders slowly retreated to the side. The great elder waved his hand, and the long Tianxiang incense appeared once again. With a flash of light, the long Tianxiang incense was already far away on the socket. The tip of the incense was lit, and a faint wisp of smoke rose from it. Seeing this scene, Nian Bing was shocked. Only now did she understand that the Grand Elder was neither a warrior nor a magician. He was a magic warrior. At the same time, she couldn't help but smile bitterly. She had to face 3 magisters, 3 swordsmen, and 1 magic warrior. The method she used to deal with Hillard and Bingyun would not work. Not to mention that the eternal sleeping spell formation had its limits. Even if it could be used, her battle power would be greatly reduced. Without her spiritual power, how could she control her 7 shadow puppets? It seemed that there was no chance for her to use tricks today. The 7 elders were not in a hurry to attack. The Grand Elder said, "Because the 7 of us are working together, and you are so young, we will not use any weapons or magic items. Whether or not you can pass the test depends on your own strength. The test begins now." As he spoke, he raised his hand and struck Nian Bing with his palm. A dark red stream of air condensed and didn't dissipate, attacking Nian Bing's chest like a sharp blade. The other 6 elders also moved. The 3 magisters retreated at the same time, while the 3 swordsman elders floated forward, carrying tyrannical Do Qi to cooperate with Nian Bing's attack. Nian Bing knew that the Do Qi attack was only the first wave. When the 3 magisters finished their incantations, the real full-scale attack would begin. He didn't dare to be negligent. His eyes shone brightly, and a layer of milky white light emitted from between his eyebrows. He instantly opened the Heaven's Eye domain, controlling it within a 3-zhang radius around his body. At the same time, 7 shadow puppets appeared with 7 blades. Under the amplification effect of the Heaven's Eye domain, their bodies shone with an intense 7-colored radiance. The 7 blades were raised at the same time, interweaving with the energy of the 7 elements. Under Nian Bing's control, the shadow puppets didn't attack. Instead, they waited until the 3 Do Qi and 1 magic Do Qi entered the Heaven's Eye domain before they began to resist. Nian Bing once again deeply experienced the defensive power of the Heaven's Eye domain. The moment the elders' attacks entered the Heaven's Eye domain, the domain automatically reacted, quickly weakening the attributes of their Do Qi. At the same time, under the effect of the 7 elements, the domain took on a viscous shield shape, greatly weakening the attacks of the 4 elders. The shadow puppet was the first to move under Nian Bing's control. The demon-devouring blade glowed with a dark light as it clashed with the first elder's demon Do Qi. As for the other 6 shadow puppets, they matched fire with ice, wind with light, and space with earth as they clashed with the attacks of the other 3 elders. In this first attempt, Nian Bing chose to meet the attacks of the 4 elders head-on. Boom, 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 boom. For muffled sounds rang out. Under the guidance of the divine power, Nian Bing's face paled, and he took 3 steps back before he could steady himself. The 7 shadow puppets' radiance dimmed at the same time, then returned to normal. Light and shadow flickered, and the shadow puppet broke free from Nian Bing's control. The black figure instantly reached the limit of its speed and it actually overtook the 4 elders in front of it, directly pouncing towards the 3 archmages behind it. Nian Bing only felt his body shake violently for a moment, but quickly returned to normal. He no longer cared about the shadow puppet that had lost control. With a flash of silver light, his body instantly moved 30 feet to the side, dodging the attacks of the 4 elders. In a battle, stalling for time was the most important. The 4 elders attacking Nian Bing simultaneously revealed looks of surprise, but their reactions were incomparably fast. Immediately, 2 of them turned to face the shadow puppet behind them, while the 1st elder and the 4th elder continued to attack Nian Bing. The 1st elder was extremely fast, his dark red light supporting his body as he flew close to the ground. His hands crisscrossed, one palm strike after another sealing all directions around Nian Bing. Nian Bing didn't panic, and a faint smile appeared on his face. He waved his right hand, and with a flash of silver light, the space elemental shadow puppet floated over and fused with his body. At this moment, the ever-changing hexagram sword also entered his grasp. With the sword in hand, Nian Bing's figure flashed, and when he reappeared, he was already 30 feet away. Space elemental magic was the best way to deal with a warrior's attacks, and this method of fusing with the shadow puppet was something that Nian Bing had just discovered in the last 5 days. At this moment, his body speed was exactly the same as the space elemental shadow puppet, and his body would immediately flash away as soon as he willed it. Although the 2 elders were at the same level as the swordsman, they couldn't do anything against Nian Bing's continuously flashing body. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Nian Bing sent out the remaining 5 shadow puppets. Their targets were the 3 archmage tutors. As long as the archmage tutors weren't allowed to display their full strength, Nian Bing was confident that he could deal with the 2 swordsman tutors. He didn't want to win, but he wanted to make no mistakes.